Starfield versus Cyberpunk cutscene comparison. Here we go.
Remember, we're on their...
Starfield versus Cyberpunk cutscene comparison. Starfield versus Cyberpunk cutscene comparison. Here we go.
Remember, we're on their turf. So what do you want?
You look different in person. Our public relations always insists on doing some touch-ups for the official photos. Embarrassing, really.
You got a bot. Model MT0D1.
Embarrassing, really.
You got a bot. Model MT0D12, called the Flathead.
And? The hell you care?
Guy I represent already paid Brick for it. I'm just here for the pickup. I can talk direct to Royce if necessary.
Nah, you talk to me. Name's Tum Tum.
Your security here going to stand or sit for this little meeting? Making me nervous.
Man. This isn't looking good.
That is high quality.
So polite. Almost makes me forget what planet I'm on.
Neo!
I just realized that there's a cutscene for sitting down. I don't know why, but I never really kind of put the two and two together. Yes, there's a cutscene to sit down.
Couch. Planet.
What a nice place.
Sit your ass down for a planet.
What a nice place. Realize that
Oh, oh my god. I know. Okay, now I know when he said the cutscene for sitting down. Like when you're sitting in the pilot seat. That's so fucking stupid.
I don't know. What a nice place.
Sit your ass down for a planet boy
Jack.
in your skull.
Sit down.
This ain't gonna end well, but... Shit.
Am I to assume that briefcase has our item of interest? Yeah, here it is.
Well...
I can't believe this is like, it's, wow.
Wait, let me see. I don't even notice the Starfield moments. It's like, sounds like fucking like background pedestrian conversation.
Am I to assume that briefcase has our item of interest? Yeah, here it is.
Well...
Yeah! Let's go.
I can't believe this is like, it's, wow.
Alright. Come on. Gotta lighten up.
This is like the difference between bread and garlic bread. You know? I feel like that's the best way I can describe this.
Take a hit.
Take the inhaler? Oh shit.
Puff that shit.
Doing drugs.
Better.
Puffing copium.
Now we can talk.
Wait, so you don't have to just immediately shoot him in the head? Because, like, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Dude, because I just went in there and I...
got that big old booty on me. That fat old ass.
Like, you look at this guy, and this guy's a bad
Fat old
guy.
ass.
You just look, bro. Fucking just look at him. He's obviously, of course you're supposed to kill him, right?
Here we go. A flathead.
What?
Model MT0 D12.
Need to see it.
Suit yourself.
Well, look at that.
One of a kind. And I know you want it.
I have the amount we agreed on.
Oh my god. What the fuck? Like, this is, what a difference.
Want it.
I have the
Oh my god. What the fuck? Like, this is, what a difference. This is insane.
Fucking tricked out this thing. Dynamic thermal optic camo armor. Full cognitive immersion with a Raven controller. Pimped out prototype actuators made of titanium vanadium Kevlar composite. And watch this. Fully integrated link 2. So when the spark
And look at, like, obviously his little thing changed whenever he's moving it around or something like that, mentally. Look at that.
starts crawling up walls dangling from ceilings.
Could lose your lunch.
Look at the
What'd you
crawly
say?
boy.
Well, look at that.
It'll have to do.
Ha!
Look at that. Picky little fucker. Let's see your cred.
Wait!
Boy.
Well, look at that.
Well, look at that! Oh my god! It's even the same line. I know it's not like copying Starfield. It's probably a very generic fucking briefcase opening line when you come to buy the shit, buy the drugs or whatever illegal shit. But man...
It'll have to do.
Look at that. Picky little fucker. Let's see your cred.
Brick got it. It's all paid.
Look at that!
Brick got it. I don't see any fucking brick around here, do you?
Can't expect me to pay for this thing twice.
And who the fuck are you to say what can and can't be?
You ought to offer us a discount. A big...
Dude, what the fuck, man? And like, this is so good.
one.
Things have changed. I want double.
How much money would you pay to see a live Todd Howard reaction of this video?
It's great. It is a next-gen PC game.
Now, how am I supposed to do that?
I don't know, but your security here seems to have some fancy gear.
Wait, a next-gen PC game? Because PC games are already like fucking like 2 gens ahead of PS5. What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Pay to see a live Todd Howard reaction of this video.
It's great. It is a next-gen PC game.
Now, how am I supposed to do that?
I don't know, but your security here seems to have some fancy gear. Why don't they chip in?
Chip it.
You'll pay twice because I say you'll pay twice. Alright. You want the flathead? I better see some eddies.
Not my problem.
It is if you leave empty-handed. We came here in good faith. Now honor our previous agreement.
You either figure out a way to give me what I want, or I walk out of here right now.
You know, you never did say who sent you. Never did say who you're working for.
Dexter Deshawn. That's who.
Dexter Deshawn.
I leave now. I can get a jump start on the people after me, instead of you all wasting my time.
I think this is probably the strongest argument for why AI can't write dialogue and won't replace writers. Well, it would be if this was written by AI. It's not, but if you showed this, like, I would, you know what I should do? I should show this to my dad, and I should be like, hey, I want you to look at these two games, and I want you to tell me, like, which one looks better and which one was written by AI.
I never see any of you people ever again. Have it. This couldn't have gone better.
Dexter Deshawn. The lord ass who punching animal fucked half of Pacifica? Think he ain't good?
No, he's alive, well, and kicking. He sends his regards.
So, gonna consider my offer now?
There's already one gun at his head. Jackie, you can cover the other guys. I remember this cutscene pissed me the fuck off. I was like, Jackie, well, I already have a gun in his head. Fuck! You have 3 other guys here.
Bang.
Cocksuckers. What if I do suck a cock, though?
Man,
What's wrong
give
with
Kratos a
sucking
shout
cock?
out. Yeah, I linked it to you guys. This is a great.
Oh, actually, yeah, no,
compilation.
cocksucker dick. Cock is pretty bad. It's pretty nasty. Just in general, not even a gay
Are
thing.
unjustifiable, and that they are settlers. That so they extend beyond your perspective that you
Oh,
agree with, which
shit.
is a settler occupation.
I think it's an extremely evil thing to say. What he said.
Let me ask you this.
No. What do you think? What he said is evil?
I think it is 1, unproductive, and 2, it does not meet the realities on the ground. And
Holy shit, Hassan has put on his fucking optics glove and his optics hat and his optics coat today. Holy shit. Oh my god. Hassan is coming out here in his optics gear. He's huffed a big fucking line of optics before coming out here. He is being so measured in his response. He's trying so hard to keep all of these lines together, you know?
it's not a viable solution.
So calling, just to be clear, calling babies
No, of course not.
settlers.
Of course.
And they're not even living.
They're not.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
they're
okay.
babies.
So I just want to say,
listen.
I just
have
want
a
to
question for
say
you. I have a
that
question
this
for you.
guy's a fucking evil piece of shit for saying that.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I finish? Let me finish the
Okay,
video.
we'll finish this, but I do have a question for you because I think you're going to agree with something I'm about to say.
Yes. Let's just finish it and then we'll talk.
Invaded the United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati,
I want to check out the
Ohio
market
is our
shops.
ancestral
We got some
home.
new stuff
And
around here.
everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma,
Oh,
they
wow.
bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there?
Good
No,
shit,
they're
you
occupied.
guys.
And those are criminals.
Okay,
Production's
the people
turn
who
it up.
bulldozed your house and murdered your mom, I assume would be the IDF.
What's this
who
purple?
are
Ooh, what you got?
soldiers. All of the people involved here are settlers, but that doesn't mean that all the settlers aren't civilians. You can be a settler and a civilian. A civilian, the civilian distinction is just civilian or military, basically. It's combatant or non-combatant. You know, settler is a modifier, but it doesn't determine either of those.
That is, there are no civilians there in the illegal military occupation.
Yeah. So that's number one.
I mean, that's so callous. It's kind of hard to fucking even believe just how flippant he can be about calling babies militants that are deserving to be killed.
I don't think those murdered were even settlers. It was original Israeli territory. Well, original Israeli territory goes back to like 48. There were people alive who saw Israel take their original territory. So, you know, depending on where you want to put that line. But even then, there were also the people at the rave or whatever. But...
Very beautifully put. Number two, much more importantly...
who were the Viet Cong, combatants or civilians? Combatants. The Viet Cong were a formal military. People have this idea the Viet Cong were all just like rice farmers with hats and
Goddamn Gek
rifles.
have
They
no
were a full
architectural
military,
organization.
with drills
What the
and
fuck
regiment
is this?
training and equipment and everything.
The track record of Palestinians has
Everything's
been
all over the
thousands
place.
times better than that of the Israeli occupation. Despite the fact that Israeli
Looking at your
occupation
electronic
does not need to
fleshlights,
utilize.
nice.
They already have all the power.
Yeah.
But they
Oh, this is a
choose
dance
to
hall, I
far,
think?
Far worse. The worst they'll have
Or
to
the
a person in
restaurant?
Palestinian
I
custody
forgot.
is that they're going to be
I can't
like
understand
auctioned off
the
for a prisoner's
posters.
swap, which is the historic track record also.
Yeah.
And of course,
He's not wrong about this. This is the original goal for the military, the excursion, at least if you believe
I'm not exactly having a ton of faith in the dudes that decapitated babies to treating.
NVA was military. Viet Cong were guerrillas. Sorry. The NBA were for military. The Viet Cong, however, like they weren't. Guerrilla army doesn't just mean like civilian farmers with guns or whatever. Like the Viet Cong did have like a pretty a much more regimented system for engagement than people often give them credit for.
And their POWs really well.
Well,
I think that's kind of a psychotic take too, where it's like it's like, why are you trying to give Hamas the benefit of the doubt on this one? You know, being like, oh, they treat their prisoners fucking awesome. You know, let's not try to do that.
Okay. So,
but anyway, and that combined with just the callous, the laughter.
Listen,
hold on.
Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Okay.
And they're laughing about it.
That's pretty weird shit.
Let me pose a question for you.
Go ahead.
So you've said that those in the West Bank are fundamentalist settlers. Are you familiar with the international law surrounding the justifiable forms of violence towards?
So first of all,
terror.
I don't put much.
The came in second thought are actually evil. Yeah, I think Yagupnik is better though. He was supposed to come on stream and talk like ages ago, and I recently remembered to message him, and he didn't message back, so he might have like shifted over more. But he's not like them. He's better than them, I think.
I don't put any stock, frankly, in whatever these quote international laws are.
Yeah, it's.
But no, I'm not familiar with
So,
whatever that says.
Technically, the reason why the IDF has to exist in the West Bank and behave in the oppressive manner that they behave is because Palestinians, and this is going to sound very radical and possibly very violent, but this is a matter of law, and maybe even if you agree with this, a matter of morality. Palestinians have the legal ground to violently seize back their own homes from these settlers. This is a reality, and that is precisely the reason why they have to exist under endless occupation in the West Bank.
You know what? And that's why I say, if it was settlers, that would be a lot more.
That's true. What he said definitely isn't wrong. They were literally like forced out at gunpoint in violation of international law. Like 100%, yeah. Morally and like depending on what level we're operating on legally, the people who are ousted from the West Bank, absolutely, like that is, they have been illegally taken from their territory. Like, think of this comparatively. In the United States, if you have a house and then a bunch of criminals like kick you out of the house, you're allowed, like you can defend yourself. You know.
Portal.
And this is why I say that
Dude, what the
Israel
fuck?
uses human shields, because by having the vanguard
Should I get that
of
working
their
again?
occupational effort
There
be
we go.
repped by settlers, by civilians, they're essentially making it impossible to fight back against their occupational force without engaging in civilians.
Understandable, but let's not obfuscate. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand, and there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
But the babies that killed were not.
I know.
Okay, so
Now
here's
that we establish that, no, hold on. Now that we establish that, the other school of thought here is that all matter of Israelis living on Israel proper are
Guys,
the baby.
A settler, like if you're a settler or like a colonist or whatever, you can be that as a baby or a 95-year-old. This is why you can't attach moral weight to the term. The term, like, this baby is a colonist, like, a baby can be a colonist, a baby can be a settler. That's why the term settler should not, in your mind, immediately go like, oh, a valuable target to kill or whatever. Like, the term simply describes the relationship that you have to the land that you're on. That's the case whether or not you made a choice to do it or not. It's just a descriptor of your relationship to the land. Settler, colonist, civilian, whatever. You know, the only thing you really can't have, I guess, is like a non-civilian baby, because it's a baby. A baby can't be a legitimate military target.
They're also
fair, but second thought implied the consequence of that. That's because second thought is saying you can't be a civilian if you're a settler, which is bullshit. All settlers are civilians. Otherwise, they would be in the military. They would be in the occupational force. Well, I guess you can have a person who is a settler, but who is also a soldier in the area they're settling. But then I guess I would just call them a soldier, not really like a settler. Whatever.
Doing the exact same thing in the eyes of some. I do not agree with that because...
Hold on. Now consider. Now let's ground our priors and consider the hypotheticals at play here. Let's isolate the variables so we can determine what we actually believe. Sorry.
Because I don't think that
I gotta
is
farm some ferrite.
reasonable solution, and it's not realistic anyway, and that only will lead to the complete evisceration of Palestinians, and far-right Israelis will use that to continuously radicalize just regular Israeli citizens in their endless bombing campaigns and ethnic cleansing campaigns and the brutal occupation. This is why many thinkers, I believe even including Norm Finkelstein, who has dedicated his entire life to speaking the truth about Israel's occupation, and Noam Chomsky and many others, even Edward Said, as I brought up earlier.
Hassan's trying to glaze over the schizo shit. Hakeem and Second Thought were saying, lol. The problem is that, again, there is absolutely no way to come out morally clean here. The status quo right now with Israel's occupation is genocidal. It's monstrous. So how should Palestine resist? Well, following like the logical through line, okay, if Palestinians are not given an option to manage this diplomatically, which they clearly haven't been, diplomacy has done nothing for them in decades and decades and decades, obviously Palestinians have a moral right to resist through violence, right? Like, and if they resist through violence, innocents will be killed, because that is what happens when you resist through violence. Innocents are being killed right now in Gaza through indiscriminate Israeli airstrikes, as they have been for a long time. There is no way out of this without violence, okay? However, here are the problems I have. For one, Hamas is not an emancipatory or revolutionary organization. They are jihadist militants who do not act in the best interests of the Palestinians. If the Palestinians had a super ultra principled secular militia that fought back, two things would happen. For one, innocents would die. The death of innocents is always regrettable. However, again, innocents are dying right now in Gaza, and Israel is the institution that set up this set of circumstances. They are the ones who made this conflict unavoidable. For two, if Palestinians resisted in a super principled and secular way, they would lose. Badly. This is why the situation seems so untenable. If Palestinians were capable of some overwhelming victory, even if it cost a lot of lives in the short term, I would think that morally justifiable, because the long-term consequences of the continued Palestinian occupation seem to be genocidal. But that's not the case. This isn't like South Africa, where South African society was built pretty much entirely on the labor of black South Africans, and there are nine black South Africans to every one white South African. In a situation like that, the black South Africans are this like large revolutionary mass, potentially, that is capable, they're capable of meaningfully addressing this issue through force. Not so with the Palestinians. The Palestinians are not broadly integrated into Israel's economy and society at large. Israel could, theoretically, wipe Gaza off the face of the map and continue to function. The same is not the case with black South Africans. So again, what's the solution here? It seems like every direction leads to the killing of civilians. If the Palestinians continue to not resist in a meaningful and organized way, they die. If Palestinians rise up and form this like mass secular
Oh shit! Fuck, I need metal plating. God damn it.
Does it matter to you that anti-Semitic?
Oh, wait, what do you mean?
Well, you're saying you're treating this as if it doesn't matter at all, and that's
Yes,
you're not.
I don't think it matters.
And you're not Israeli.
Yeah, I don't think.
This is really dumb. I have no idea why Hassan here has to pretend that like a large content creator making incorrect statements has no effect. And I have no idea why we would like pretend to die on this hill. Like that's really stupid.
I don't think it matters at all in the grand scheme of things whatsoever.
So you're saying?
Because the question
I've noticed that like one of the default cope takes that people will go to when they disagree with like when somebody disagrees with the take they have or whatever is they'll start doing the whole like, well, nothing we say matters thing. Like Gamergate YouTubers did this all the time where like you know, the feminazi behavior of their opponents was of great consequence, but then if it turns out that like some supporter of theirs did something bad, or if somebody got like harassed or whatever, they're all like, whoa, the stuff I do doesn't matter, you know. We have to be consistent with this, right? Second Thought is a super influential YouTuber. I don't know why we shouldn't hold him to a standard appropriate for that. I'll call people out who have no power whatsoever. And also, even if something has no like meaningful impact in world politics or whatever, there are still followers of this stuff, right? Like there are 50,000 people watching this. You know, there are all the people who watch Second Thought. Like there are people whose minds might be swayed by bad arguments.
Answer my question, please. Let's say
I agree, funny rhetorician. Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
JT and Hakeem or any number of different Twitter users had not been so callous in their indifference for civilian casualties.
Please debate Second Thought. I've tried to. He won't. Coward.
In this situation, not a single person had tweeted anything. Do you think that there would be more support for Palestinians?
Obviously not, but listen to
So
what
why
I'm
are we
saying,
having this
bro.
conversation then?
This is, dude, what Hassan will go on tirades arguing with people in his chat. Is he seriously pretending here that like, oh, sorry, you know, criticizing one of my podcast buddies, the outcome of this criticism will not change or solve the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Therefore, you know, why even do it? Come on.
He's influencing people. He's not. Is this tweet going to change what's happening on the ground? No.
No, of course
But these opinions being broadcast by respected people in politics is going to contribute to fucking more violence. He is.
In what regard?
Because people
like,
who
do you think
sympathize with him are gonna be like, yeah. I mean, he's basically.
Do you think Palestinians are going to see JD's
no, the
tweets?
acceptance of people, and that's,
This is so stupid and reductive. This is literally like, bro, whether or not you criticize him, like, you're not going to solve the Israel-Palestine crisis. Like, you're not going to bring peace to the Middle East. Like, why even do it? Like, what the fuck? Nobody holds to this standard. People criticize, people argue with their chat. Hassan argues with his chat. Why do or say anything if the threshold for legitimate engagement is solving the Israel-Palestine conflict, you know?
That's fucking anti-Semitism, bro.
The acceptance of what people?
The acceptance of people internationally who look at this guy saying, let's fucking kill all the Israelis because they're all occupiers.
I don't agree with that take. That
why criticize Israel? Like, criticizing Israel isn't going to like stop bombs from falling on Gaza, you know?
He's making.
I'm being hyperbolic, but it's not that far from what he said. I mean, he's called every Israeli an accomplice in genocide and an occupier.
It's like freaking out. It's like freaking out when the Iranian leadership like fucking burns an American flag or whatever. Be like, they hate us. They're gonna come for us. They're gonna kill all of us. Like there is no conversation to be had here that is like serious because.
Bro, there's plenty to talk about there. There's a ton of really interesting geopolitical analysis that you can do from Iran constantly using perceived Western interference as a scapegoat to keep their population in a state of fervor and like not engage meaningfully with domestic politics. What do you mean? Why wouldn't we talk about that?
disagree. I mean, you were telling me today how much influence I have. Why does it not matter that people use this?
The
kind of
influence
fucking
you
language?
have is upon
This
your
man has
fan base.
influence.
The influence you have
And
upon
that
your
doesn't matter?
The influence you have upon your fan base was specifically in regards to okay. Let me dial it back real quick and explain something. This is a basic fundamental that I believe in. I believe that our culture
Okay, a
and
lot of
attitudes
Faradust on
are
this planet.
entirely
Perfect.
reflected on the material
Damn, I
realities
landed on
around,
some good
that
planets.
our material realities guide
Carbon,
our culture and our attitudes towards
Faradust.
certain
Looks like it's a
things.
nice mix.
I don't believe that you can move the needle in the other direction. I don't believe that you can tweet a revolution. As a matter of fact, many people laugh at hashtag activism and whatnot, but I do think that it goes in the opposite direction. I do think that you can't you know, make a super sweet YouTube video that ends up...
What the fuck is he saying?
Ends up destroying the white supremacist court structure in the United States of America. However, I do believe that if you go in the other direction and promote more of
discombobulate
the state-sponsored violence, you absolutely can motivate people to feel more justified and demand more from their governments.
Which is what he's
and to
doing,
do this.
right?
So, if and only if there was a real, legitimate, well-established military machine that was capable of going and fucking killing every single Israeli citizen, like you said, he is justifying for, this would be as damaging as the average Israeli defense of the Israeli occupying.
This is a complete goalpost move. We are not talking about whether or not, like, let me make this, before I make this political statement, let me scale it proportionally to the extent to which I think it meaningfully backs the behavior of a military organization. This is bullshit. If you have something you want to say and you have a good argument for it, then say it. That's it. That's it. If you think that someone is over-fixating on something, then that is one thing to say. I think it is entirely possible that Ethan Klein might be over-fixating on the behavior of some online lefties with regards to their poor response to this issue. I think that's a fine argument to make. I don't know, like, you would have to defend it, but it's like, it's a valid thing you can say. However, like, that's not the same as saying that there's no point at all in commenting on it. That's really, really dumb. By this logic, we shouldn't push back on Nazis because they're not materially in charge right now. It's brain dead. Yeah, like, bro, what, like, Nazi military org is gonna... Like, no, that's dumb. I mean, if you really want to make the case for it, like, Jewish people already suffer a massively disproportionate number of hate crimes here in the United States, and these hate crime spikes have been going up since the attack from Hamas. So, like, if you want to talk about... If all of your opinions have to be contextualized in the framework of what immediate stochastic terrorism will this prevent or enact, then, like, we should be concerned about anti-Semitism. And I am concerned about anti-Semitism, okay? Like, it's one of those, just because you're oppressed doesn't mean that you're in the right situations, where, like, there are a bunch of Arabs right now in the West and in the Middle East who fucking hate Jews. And they might be more oppressed, like, geopolitically, than your average Jewish Israeli, but if the positions were swapped, they would not be better to the Jews than the Jews are to the Palestinians. Like, you can't frame the validity of an argument behind who's in power right now, because your arguments have to be rooted in, like, a consistent underlying logic that allows you to make meaningful moral judgments regardless of, well, will this immediately affect the situation at large? I think this is bullshit goalpost moving, and I think he knows that. I think he's trying to waffle his way out of substantively criticizing a friend of his. He doesn't want to say anything that'll get him booted off leftovers, so he can't full-throatedly defend what Second Thought is saying, but he also doesn't want to, like, not be kept in the good graces of his cool fucking red fash friends, so he can't, like, overly condemn them. He's trying to, like, that's why he said he's putting on the optics gloves, the optics hat, you know.
Force. Only then.
I just find it odd
And
that you
even
have
then,
to do the
and
whole what
even
about
then,
thing about this.
but even then, there is no comparison, because guess what? What he is saying as a singular
Oh, my
YouTuber
bad.
is represented by our elected leaders, is represented in the reality on the ground, in the
Like,
way that
if Hassan's take here was just, hey, you do realize that even if what Second Thought said is dumb, it's not, like, weighted with the same institutional power as pro-Israeli sentiment is right now. If he just said that and left it at that, I think that's true, you know?
Israel is continuing its occupation and its bombing campaign in Gaza, which is why I think it is utterly and entirely a distraction to have assessments, to make assessments
I mean,
over.
listen, I'm sorry that I care about it. I guess I'm just an emotional fucking idiot.
I'm not
for caring
saying that at all. I perfectly understand why you
But
care about
it's important to me.
I
mean,
understand why you care about it.
I disagree with that premise.
I think you should have him on
But
to
clearly
ask
you
him.
disagree with
I think you should
his
have him on to
premise.
ask him. Because I personally disagree with this assessment,
Yeah.
and I think it's unhelpful and unproductive
Yeah,
overall.
okay.
But
we agree. But I think he's evil.
But
He's
I
a
also
scumbag.
will point once again that what he's saying here is the Israeli policy in the other direction. It has been the reality in
Which
the other
I'm not-
direction.
which is not good.
I know you don't agree with that, but I'm saying because you don't agree with that, it is.
This is the main problem I'm having with all this stuff.
I know that's the main problem you have with all this stuff, and that's why
I think it's very funny that while mounting an implicit defense of second thought here by like argumentum ad irrelevantium, Hassan essentially says, well, second thought's not that bad. He's basically just doing the same thing as Israel, but reverse. Which is like, oh, isn't that really bad then? Wait, so if second thought is just employing the same essentialist logic that Israel is while engaging in its genocide, isn't that actually a really good argument for criticizing it?
I'm trying to say it's not even remotely a point of contention, and it's not even remotely equivalent.
Yeah, I'd like to go on leftovers, or at least I'd like to talk to Ethan on a show sometime. I don't know. I don't like, my reputation is fucking poison. If I ever went into shit, there'd be like 1 million people in a sub that would be like, holy shit, you had this racist, transphobic, Nazi, pedophile, zoophile, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, there's like an optics wall or whatever, but I'd still really enjoy going on. I feel like there's a lot that I want to say and a lot that I could offer.
And it's not even remotely
I don't think people should
productive
be
to have this conversation.
This guy's way too comfortable just going out there publicly and being applauded.
What do you think is the solution here? What should be done with him for saying that?
What criticism doesn't stand on its own? Why do I need to like be punitive?
No, you said you're upset. I mean, I think
upset.
you're well within your right to be.
I'm criticizing.
Critical.
I'm criticizing. I'm not
Okay.
asking for.
I think you're well within your right to be critical of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, I will reaffirm my position that if he was saying this about Palestinians instead of Israelis, that would not only be not condemned at all by a singular person, that would be the specific policy position of the entirety of the Western world.
So again, it's like, so he's just doing woke reverse Israel policy. That's bad. Okay, whatever, dude. Whatever. It's three, and I haven't even read Donos. It's 3 and I haven't even read Donos. It's the Donos haven't been read and it's 3. That's enough. I could watch it forever. It's 3. Not just H3, 3. 3. I went the entire stream without arguing with chat, and frankly, I'm proud of myself. I'm hitting the add button. If you enjoyed the stream, make sure to subscribe and like and subscribe and give me your money and subscribe with money and subscribe. Okay, I'm hitting the add button. I'm reading Donos. We'll talk about George Santos next stream. Excuse me. Lily's what? Congratulations on the raise and promotion. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Carson Harvey and Bad Dragon Love, thank you for the $5 both. Really appreciate that. Can Biden choose a different VP for this run? He can, but he won't. It'd be too much drama. Bad Dragon Love and David Stoller, thank you for the 5 both. Really appreciate that. He's jealous of his nephew Hassan. Maybe. Jank, maybe. Kriller, thanks the tier 1 sub, donating to Vush's presidential campaign. Thank you. Adrian Zhipov, thank you for the $5. Would you say this is like if America started geocoding? Genociding, I assume. African Americans after the Nation of Islam did a terror attack? It's so complicated that I don't want to like make errant analogies that aren't really warranted. It's a lot worse. It's really bad, is the thing. The Israel-Palestine situation is unmatched anywhere else in the world. There are other instances of settler colonial violence. There are other instances of ethnically exclusionary oppression or apartheid. But the Gaza Strip West Bank shit is so specific, you know? LJ Wombology, thank you for the tier 2 sub. My pleasure, thank you. Christopher Hoskin, thank you for the $10. As a Pulitzer Prize-winning 30-year NPR journalist. Really? I'm eager to say I'm a huge fan and you're much more brilliant than most of my coworkers. Thanks for all you do. I don't know if you're being serious. I think that might be a joke, but I appreciate it anyway. Why is West Bank called the West Bank? Because it's on the west bank of the sea. What sea is it again? How am I forgetting this? The Red Sea? The Dead Sea, not the Red Sea, the Dead Sea. That always tripped me up too. Isn't it the Jordan River? Oh, hold on. But that's what it feeds into.
Not bad.
No, the Dead Sea and the Jordan River. It's both. Yeah, that always tripped me up because it's like, why is the West Bank on the east side of Israel? Because it's on the west bank of the Jordan River and the Dead Sea right there. Is the Dead Sea or the Red Sea the one that's like 50% salt or whatever?
I gotta start selling the glowing crystals. I don't know why I've been selling them.
It's the Dead Sea?
I gotta start.
Yeah, the Dead Sea is super salty.
I gotta start collecting them, not selling them. Fuck. Alright, so let's go
That's why
back.
It's called the Dead Sea, because no fish can swim there, right? Like it can't really support life. That's crazy.
Alright, so this is a good ferret spot. Get ferret, fungal, we get
Still
we can
live?
get tons
Thank you
of
for $5.
geodes, glowing minerals.
These streams. There's so much, man. RJ MacDaddy and Zero the Fox, thanks for tier 1 subs. Really appreciate that. Good luck, RJ MacDaddy. Da, thank you for the $5. Why is every House Republican some guy called James John currently using their campaign finances to fund his court case where he ran over his wife last week? Literally, they're all horrible humans. Yeah. Hank and Zion, thank you for the 5 both. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Zion. We'll do it.
I'm gonna increase my exosuit inventory too.
The funny part of McCarthyism is that McCarthy mostly used the communist label on Jewish intellectuals in the academia. Yeah, like the something school. Oh, come on. Frankfurt School. Thank you. Entropic Blade, thanks to the tier 1 sub. Happy to have you with me. Horo, thank you for $3. Really appreciate that. Onahana, thank you for the 1101. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being one of the few voices of reason in these hard days. You're very inspiring, and I really appreciate all the good work you do. Thank you. Infinite suffering. Hey, want to see a rare baby? Did you? Hey, Jen. Who made you so gross? Look up. Look up. Look at this raw chicken. Does chicken condemn Hamas? Probably not. Coffee Lover and Rex Gardner, thank you for the 5 both. Rex Gardner, thank you for the $3. Huge fan of your content. Your content inspired me to ask the love of my life to marry me in front of the family. That's what, despite my nerves, my sister said yes. Thank you. Nice man. Harambas, thank you so much for the long chain of $5 donations, which seem to be largely incoherent. Hamas is haram because it contains ham in its name, period. I suppose that's true. Thank you for the $30 and the $25 donation in which you say, I simp socialism, take my money. Much appreciated. Radical AC, thanks the tier 3 sub. I'm a real Vosher, yep, you know it, and we know it. Existential 8 Ball with the tier 1 sub. Guy who condemns Ukraine's attack on Crimean Bridge because of 2 civilian deaths, but thinks a concert is a legitimate military target. True! Gek Lighter and the AI Overlord, thank you for the tier 1 subs, really appreciate those. Amelia Mendel and Appalachian Anarchist, thank you for the $10 both, really appreciate that. Thank you very much for being one of the few people online speaking of this in a moral, sane, rational way. Thank you, I really appreciate that. I will admit that while I generally am pretty smugly unaffected by bad news, because I guess I'm kind of used to it, the Israel-Palestine stuff has always filled me with a very specific and severe sense of despair. Because I do unfortunately think the Palestinian people are doomed. It's still important to have the right takes on the issue, and there's still stuff to be learned. But of all of the like broader geopolitical conflicts, holy shit, this is one of the most seemingly predetermined. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But like, it would be dishonest of me to not say that, you know? I try to give people positive perspectives, but I don't want to like lie, you know? It would take a soft revolution in Israel. It would have to take like a massive reshuffling of their government. And it has to be within Israel too. The Palestinians aren't capable of independently mobilizing anything even near close of overthrowing or toppling the Israeli government. Brad Boy, thank you for the 2 $5 donos. Really appreciate that. I visited Israel during college studying econ and politics. A fraction of the people are insane. People rioted and died because a church was swept too much, not exaggerating. While I was there, a guy was stabbed a few yards from me. We had to run out of the area, and I didn't get to buy an Asherah totem, wife of Yahweh, and I'm still bitter. I'm very sorry to hear that. I'm sure there is a great spiritual sickness in Israel. I wouldn't be surprised at all to know that. Gits and Shiggles and Appalachian Anarchist, thank you for the tier 1 subs both. Really appreciate that. One Angry Pagan and Markinator, thank you for the 5 both. Really appreciate that. Vosh, I'm sincerely asking, isn't it extremely loaded to refer to any Jews as having Hitler particles, given what Hitler did to the Jews? There were Jews that, no, I don't believe that at all. That's like saying, isn't it loaded to accuse Candace Owens of being like a white nationalist or whatever? Or like, Hitler did lots of bad stuff to lots of people. Should I not say disabled people? Like, he killed many disabled people. Should I not say they have Hitler particles? No, Hitler particles, I'll tell you this, folks. You wouldn't have thought it would come from them. But the Nazis have actually provided us the greatest argument for multiculturalism imaginable. All humans can be packed full of Hitler particles. Go look at what Indians are posting on Twitter right now. Hitler's everywhere. Now, would Hitler have liked the Indians? No. But that's the magical thing. Hitler may have been Aryan specific.
He lives on
Hitler
through
particles
everybody. He's like Santa Claus.
all around us. It's the magic we breathe. Hopefully not very much of.
That's the magical thing.
In a magical way, all humans are Hitler. A bad magic kind of way. Really, though, it's true.
Bad magic.
Not good. The real Hitler were the friends we made along the way. Really, though, Hitler particles are universal. It's true. Adrian Jimbo, thank you for the $2. Really appreciate that. A nice coat and Karn, thank you for the $5. I really appreciate those. Thank you kindly. Thank you for the additional 5. A nice coat. All's well. Pyrel, thank you for the tier 2 sub, and Cockowin, thank you likewise. Really appreciate those. Cockowin, thank you for the tier 3 sub for yourself. Thank you very, very much. Very kind of you. John Templeton and Crab Navy General, thank you for the $5 both. I really appreciate that. Freedom Cleaner, thanks for the tier 1 subs. Zverg, thank you for the tier 1 subs. Sake with the 5 tier 1 subs, thank you. This is from 2 days ago. I think I read that one actually. Sola, thank you for the $10. Hey, I'm an ex-IDF soldier who now works to build bridges between Israelis and Palestinians. I'd love to join the street chat. I appreciate the offer. I can't promise anything, I'm afraid. But the work you do is incredibly valuable, especially right now. You probably have your work cut out for you. Good luck. Vosh, when Hitler blew his brains out, he spread the particles like radioactive dust after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah. It's like the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen with the fingers of that evil demon or whatever. When Hitler blew his brains out, the blood particles dispersed finally into the atmosphere. And now, like, all the atoms of Hitler are spread across humanity. And one day, through a very specific set of circumstances, he may reunite in one body. But hopefully not in our lifetimes. Vosh, I shower daily. What is anime? Jujutsu Kaisen is pretty good, actually. Right? Yeah. I'm not too contrarian on this. Jujutsu Kaisen is pretty good. I still need to watch the second season. Matt P, thank you for the 10 bucks. One of the grossest things I've ever seen is an Israeli sniper in a shirt sewing crosshairs over a pregnant woman wearing Islamic clothing with a caption that translates to 1 shot, 2 kills. I think I've seen that very image. Nice. Euro, thank you for the 5. Really appreciate that. Stifu, thank you. I'll take a look. Sake, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Is this what paleo-conservatives were trying to argue all along? They wanted to claim rights to land they claimed to have occupied the Neolithic. Yeah. God only knows what those borders would look like. With the additional 5 tier 1 subs, thank you, Sake. I also don't fully get the rights to land they were born in concept. If you were born in a dangerous spot and your government makes it more so, not good to say. Yeah, the whole land rights shit is really complicated. I don't put that much stock in it going far enough back. Like, I don't really buy the bullshit that Jews have some innate right to Israel because 4,000 years ago that was supposedly the Holy Land. When I think of land rights, I think of it in the immediate, like, property rights context. Or, like, if your family is from there, you know, if it happened recently enough that it's in more of a, like, immediate memory sense, I think there's something to that. But if you're going back, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Still live at the $5. Oh! Unity is changing its CEO. Fuck yeah. A move so bad that it loses you your position as CEO. I'm sure he'll enjoy his $20 million golden parachute or whatever the fuck. Lianthier, thank you for the tier 2 sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your activism. I genuinely believe you have the potential to be one of the most important leftists of our day. We need more people like you. That is incredibly kind and flattering. And thankfully, I have high self-esteem, so I'll take that compliment with no qualifications. Thank you. I agree completely. Really, though, you know, God willing, right? I mean, I'll try my best. Sake, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Seriously, though, what is your take on hummus? Do you condemn chickpeas? Would you pay to have a chickpea on your face? Nice meme. No, I only top in that particular cake. Hummus is amazing. Mediterranean food in general is amazing. Also, chickpeas are amazing. Did you know that you can use chickpea juice to replace egg whites in for a vegan baking? How cool is that? The juice that comes with chickpeas in the can. Like the oil. Works pretty good. Aquafaba. Thank you. That's what it's called. Birdbrain. Thank you very much for the $10. Vosh, the trial I worked 13 hours straight preparing for was put on hold for an entire year this morning. You entertained me through the mindless toil. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. Fuck, a year delay? I'm so sorry. Well, take the notes that you worked on and save them and keep them in your back pocket for the time comes. That sucks. Thank you. Undergamer Jordan and Soball, thank you for the 5 both. Really appreciate that. Rip to all the poor bastards in the U.S. Army motor pool who just got done painting all the vehicles green and now need to paint them tan again. Ah, returning to tradition. It's like it's 92 again, you know? Oh my god. I'm so sorry you have to live in Mississippi, Undergamer Jordan. Captain Eric Tyrone, thank you for the $5. It's alright. We know that time isn't racist here on BGG. What is cool? Thanks to the tier 1 sub. Charlie Jinmir with the $5. I was in the dentist when you made the joke about Hamas attacking the pipeline underwater, and it took everything I had not to laugh during drilling. Sorry. Wait, did you have earbuds in, or was your dentist also listening to me make a joke about Hamas beheading the pipeline like a baby? Your dentist let you listen to Vosh while drilling? Oh, dude, if you're getting, like, a root canal, yeah. like, it's basically just an hour of trying to not concentrate on the fact that your numbed mouth is being drilled into with an actual drill. Yeah, put some earbuds in and listen to something. My dentist gave me the option, though I said no because I think I felt like I wanted to be able to... I don't know why I said no. Can't they knock you out for that? I got knocked out for wisdom tooth removal. I did not get knocked out for root canal. It's nice being able to drive after. Yeah, that's true. Pigeon. Fat butt baby. Ooh. Yeah. Do you guys want to see a cute baby video? Hold on. It's still on my phone. Is this the right one? Let me make sure it's the right one. This one is so funny. I'm pretty sure I didn't show this one on stream. I kept thinking I should show it, but I never got around to it. Hold on. Okay. It'll take a second to send. Anesthesia is dangerous, don't use it frivolously. That's true, but like, how often do you really use it, right? I mean,
the fuck?
Don't go to the dentist that often. Load the video. Load the video. Load the video.
The drop pod was already...
Not Junenji, I didn't want to like... Oh, it didn't go through.
What the fuck? I already got that shit.
Make the video go through. Okay. What's up? Live? Baby butt. What are you looking at? He's looking at pigeon. You want to eat pigeon? Mwah. We all do. All right, hold on. Maybe I can send it Twitter. Twitter's so slow. Twitter is so slow. Okay, send the video. Go. Alright. Not that was something. Okay. While I wait for that. Juno132, thank you for the $5. You probably hear this all the time, but you legit pulled me from the far right BS I was falling into. I never get tired of hearing it, though. Thank you. Really happy to hear that. Appalachian Anarchist, thank you for the $10. Actual convo I had with my mom earlier. Centrist, Dem, MSNBC, brained narcissist, infuriating. Oh no, I can't go over family text messages. I can't do that. Do it? No, I refuse to. I'm not weighing in on family matters. I'm not weighing in on leaked DMs. I can't do that. Get that Adderall soon, Appalachian Anarchist. Dale Davis, thank you. God. The $10. No, I have not seen the take of former PM Ehud Olmert in the current situation. I gotta go looking for it. Okay. Is this video not sending either? I hate the modern internet, man. No, it's sent. It says sent right there. Yeah, there we go. God. Okay. I hear Ruben screaming off in the distance. Okay. There we go. Look at this ridiculous video. Look at what I come into. What is he doing? What are you doing? Look at how good Artemy's being, though. Look at Artemy licking. See, he could like bite him really hard, but he's not. Like Artemy is so much stronger than Ruben, but he's being nice. Ooh. No. Gonna hear the whap. Wait, listen for it. Dead. So cute. I love them. Alright, sorry. Bit of a distraction there, but you know. Okay. Benjamin Gilbert Live, thank you for the very kind wait, not 100. Why did I say 100? It's because you donate a lot. $50 donation. Based on both public and private info, I fundamentally disagree with the idea Jenk is grifting. I respect your opinion enough to reevaluate, but I really disagree. Reach out to J.R. Jackson. He would be great to talk about the TYT BTS in private. I mean, I could. It's really just like, it just lines up best with the behavior, you know? My understanding of it. It's, like, maybe it's different. You can never know what a person is thinking. It's incomprehensibly retarded either way. All right. I think you're underestimating the level of genuine delusion and fear-motivated jank. I mean, past a point, does it even really matter? Hello, Pigeon. Whatever the case. Brio Pond, thank you for the $10. Really appreciate that. No, I would not be mad at that. I'll take a look at my emails. Antifa Private, thank you for the $5. In DSA, it's very messy right now, as too many of my comrades want to more or less condone Hamas, and I feel conflicted about going to protest. Thoughts? I don't fucking know, man. It's the DSA. The only way to fix the DSA is with overwhelming numerical majority. So you guys got to go over there, and you got to do a retard fumigation. You got to go in there and be less retarded than the average DSA member. Sergio Hernandez and Juliet Mindset, thank you for the $5 both. Happy birthday, Juliet Mindset. Schmeckle, thank you for the $5. Do you have a Herman Miller Ames yet? If not, why not? Got an Aaron. That's fine. Faux real? Yes, they do. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. Napalm Ass Asian, the $10. Stuff like this makes me think of like opponents of slavery in the early days. The conditions required to change things wouldn't exist for decades. So like, what do you tell that person without lying? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, imagine being like super anti-slavery in like 1802 or something, you know? You gotta wait a while to see any kind of justice there. Higara, thank you for the 10 Canadian. I hope you have a good day too. What is cool? With the tier 1 sub. I'm a uni professor and I showed a class your panel from VidCon today. Oh, nothing but the best classroom material. Resounding response was a dislike of Destiny because of his antagonistic behavior and they liked you the most. Well, thank you very much. I believe you uncritically and without a second thought. I'm just taking it and I'm absorbing this entirely. How does your class feel about pigeon?
Oh, I didn't even use it. I'm so stupid.
She will never enjoy being held. She's silly. All right, folks. I love you all very much. You're beautiful people. I did it. I did it. Considering I streamed a half hour late, we are now ending a half hour late. I did it. I streamed an appropriate duration. That's good. Now I gotta go call a bunch of pharmacies. All right, I'm sending you guys over to Dylan Burns TV on account of, you know, politics. So good luck. I'll see you guys soon. Did I, Appalachian Anarchist? I feel I responded to it. Might have missed one. You're free to email me if you need to, but I gotta send you all off. Good luck.
Hi everyone, it's Anthony Fantano here with Drama Tuesday. And yeah, we're talking some drama. And who would it be between other than rapper, songwriter, singer, Six God, Mr. Drake, Champagne Poppy, and former rapper turned opinion podcast man himself, Joe Budden, who was absolutely positively going in on Drake during a recent podcast episode talking about his latest project for all the dogs.
I miss the Drake that was rapping for the rappers. I miss the Drake that when he dropped, the rappers hit him. Not these little fucking kids. I don't give a fuck about you and Kai Cenat. That's gonna sound like, hey, go find some niggas your fucking age.
Now, if you know anything about Joe Budden and his opinions on Drake and rap music generally, it shouldn't surprise you to hear that he didn't really like the project. You don't really have to be a music expert or a math genius to put two and two together here and figure out that like Joe Budden is not the key demographic for Drake's music, which is why the tone of Joe's critiques in this podcast were so confusing. I will get to that in a second. What I do want to mention before we get into that is that Joe's words have created quite the ruffle. The ruffle? Can you create a ruffle? His words have made waves. His words have ruffled some feathers among the Cash Money crew, among the OVO goons. Joe has Drake's dad posting to the internet. Birdman posting to the internet. And even Drake seemingly in his comments with a big, thick, paragraph-long roast talking about how Joe Budden essentially has failed at music. Both people here took their shots, they made their points, and I don't know if anyone walked away seriously wounded per se. It just kind of seems like Drake and Joe have generated more attention for each other at the end of the day. But to get to my own thoughts on this, the perspective of Joe's words on Drake currently just didn't really make sense to me, because if you know anything about Drake's artistic trajectory over the years and also his rise to popularity, you understand that when it comes to, you know, rappers, guys who consider themselves to be macho, lyrical miracle types that bring the energy and the vibe and the pen game of a Joe Budden, for example, those types of dudes never really took Drake all that seriously, especially during the first portion of his career. In fact, Drake and Joe Budden have a years-long quiet beef going between each other at this point. Joe having negative things to say about Drake's music isn't exactly new. So the fact that he would portray that there was a time when like Drake was rapping for rappers, and you know, it was a rapper's rapper, like what, during Take Care or something. That just wasn't true. That was not true at all, in fact.
How many classic albums does Drake have?
I don't know if the public recognizes Take Care as a classic. I think that if not today, by 2020, we are going to recognize that album as a classic album. So far gone, Take Care.
Like, culturally during that time, that's when dudes like Joe Budden were hitting Drake the most with, like, you know, those Drake the type of dude type memes. The sort of jokes that you might catch on an old Big Ghost blog post that's, you know, reviewing Nothing Was the Same or something like that. Drake's the type of guy that cries during romantic scenes in movies, or he uses this kind of lotion. So again, to put it bluntly, there's
This
never been
kind
a
of
point in
lotion.
Drake's career where he had
Gotta have that good
uniform
skin-
praise across all of
skincare
hip-hop culture.
routine.
And that especially goes for the type of guys who would most likely put Nas, Jay-Z, Joe Budden, or Eminem in like their top 5. Now, I will say this, there was certainly a time in Drake's career where I think he was very unhappy with the fact that those kind of dudes didn't take him seriously, didn't see merit in what he did, or didn't think he should be allowed to like be a part of hip hop or be, you know, able to do what he was doing. He was a joke, he was soft, he just made rap for women. Yeah, at one point it did clearly hurt Drake that he wasn't being taken seriously by those types. However, he ended up reaching a point of popularity to where you couldn't ignore him and his numbers anymore. And these types of dudes, he essentially outlasted them, outcharted them, out-relevancied them, and now he's in a position where their opinion doesn't really matter anymore. There's nothing they can really do to Drake or say about Drake that can stop him at this point. And to hear Joe Budden at this point acting like, yeah, there was a time when he was rapping for real rap fans and so on and so forth, it's made up. So with that being said, let me pull apart the second piece of Joe's critique of Drake here, where he seems to be unhappy with the fact that Drake is collaborating with and associating with artists and creators and just basically people generally that are much younger than him. Joe Budden's generation of rap.
Suck my dick.
You guys already rejected
Fuck
him.
off.
You threw him in the trash. Now that he's pushing 40, he's not going to suddenly turn around and start seeking validation from you guys, having outlasted you, having passed you out, despite all of your efforts to basically put out his flame when he was getting going. Of course, instead, Drake is going to spend time with and collaborate with the next generation of artists who he very obviously inspired. A lot of these younger dudes that Drake is associating with now, that Drake is collaborating with now, that he's hanging out with now, these are guys who are, artistically speaking, like his children. Drake set the tone aesthetically and musically in so many ways for this next generation of rap. And by collaborating with these artists who see him as an artistic god in that way, he's just feeding back into the same cycle. He's giving sauce back to a community who's going to hand it back to him at the end of the day. Love Drake's music or hate it, he kind of set the tone for a lot of what we hear today, and you can't really blame the guy for just kind of reaping the benefits of that by collaborating with artists who are directly inspired by him or indirectly inspired by him because they make more sense within a paradigm that he helped kind of set. And if Drake takes the artistic opinions of the next generation of music listeners and creators more seriously than you guys, it's most likely because they took him seriously first. I do want to jump in here and add one more thing because there is a development to this story. Apparently Drake DM'd Joe Budden and then Joe just like read the DMs on his show, which like, you don't just read the DMs. Bad form, Joe. Also, there's another thing I should lay 2 cents down on, and it's this question of Drake's maturity level and how that plays out in his music, which for sure is open for criticism, but I don't think it's something that Joe truly cares about or can really
What? I
comment
already
on.
got this
The era
fucking
of
drop
hip-hop
pod.
music
Come
that he
on.
tends to favor had quite a bit of its own share of immaturity in the music. Dude was signed by Eminem at one point, and I don't ever hear him out here complaining about how many fart, pee, or diarrhea jokes.
Yeah, I
on
already got
Eminem
all this
records.
shit,
While
too.
I agree, Drake does
Well,
have
what
a
the
bit of
fuck,
Peter Pan
man?
syndrome. He's far from the first or only rap artist in the industry to have it, and I think that's all I have to say. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up with a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Drake, Joe Budden, forever.
There's no way out. If there's no water, there's no way out of Gaza. What should we do? Like drown? Like commit mass suicide? Is this what Israel wants? And we're not going to do that. And I was telling some friend the other day that I'm an academic. Probably the toughest thing I have at home is and expo marker. But if the Israelis invade, if the target has charged us, open door to massacre us, I'm going to use that marker, throw it at the Israeli soldiers, even if that is the last thing that I would be able to do. And this is the feeling of everybody. We are helpless. We have nothing to lose.
You just heard from an academic living in Gaza who explained just how bleak the situation is, and towards the end of the clip there, that loud boom that you heard was actually a missile going off near his home. Now, that man is not a Hamas militant, but many people right now are conflating Hamas with all Palestinians in order to justify the atrocities that are being committed in Gaza right now by this man's government. But as Western governments greenlight an ethnic cleansing and war crimes, everyone just seems to be okay with it. Everybody seems to be turning a blind eye. Media is only showing you one side. They're only showing you the suffering of Israelis, but not Palestinians. And if you're stunned by the brutality of Hamas's attack on innocent Israeli civilians, that is a very normal and human response. It is barbaric and shocking. But anger over that is now being used to justify unfathomable brutality against more innocent civilians who did nothing wrong. Brutality against people in Gaza who had nothing to do with that attack that we saw on Saturday. So I want to show you the side of this story that you're not seeing from media or hearing from politicians, and I want people to understand that fear and anger and ignorance is leading them, it's leading all of us as a society to accept atrocities on a massive, massive scale. For example, a member of Netanyahu's Likud party in the Knesset is calling for a Jericho missile to be used in Gaza, which is a nuclear weapon. Now, this comes after Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, called Palestinians animals and announced that food, water, and electricity will be cut off, which, by the way, is a war crime. But as a result, the Al Mazen Center reports that the Gaza Energy Authority announced that it has run out of fuel, which means that by the time you see this video, Gaza's sole power plant will no longer be in service, meaning that the population is officially in the dark, and that includes hospitals. They will no longer have the power to treat wounded civilians. And this news comes after Defense Minister Gallant announced that the Israeli military intends to commit more war crimes, as the Times of Israel reports, saying, quote, "I have released all the restraints. We have regained control of the area and we are moving to a full offense," with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying he has no intention of negotiating, a comment that received absolutely no pushback by President Biden, by the way. And this comes as the Israeli military spokesperson admits that the goal of their bombing campaign in Gaza is damage, not accuracy, meaning that they're going to kill a lot of innocent civilians. And on top of that, there are reports that Israel is using white phosphorus bombs in the western port of Gaza, which is illegal under the 1980 Geneva Convention since they inflict suffocation and burning on people. Now, showing you a lot of this is against YouTube's terms of use, so I'm restricted in what I can show you. But I do think it's important to understand that the human suffering taking place right now in Gaza is incalculable. It's so utterly shocking that it caused this ambulance driver in Gaza to have a mental breakdown as he witnessed the carnage. He is witnessing men, women, and children die before his very eyes. Our minds can barely comprehend that level of pain and suffering, and so when some of us see it, we just shut down, as he did, which is totally understandable. I don't know how I would react if I saw that much suffering. Now, let me remind you, all of this is taking place in what is effectively the world's largest open-air prison. Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas in the entire world, with 2.3 million people packed into 141 square miles, and about half of them are children under the age of 18. There's nowhere for them to go, nowhere to hide. Every single person is feeling the pain of this siege. Now, as evidence of Israeli war crimes continues to rack up, you'd think that there'd be international condemnation or even calls for restraint. And that would indeed be the case if we lived in a sane world. But we don't live in a sane world. And Western leaders aren't just turning a blind eye to Israel's war crimes, they are greenlighting it. Here's what Labor leader Keir Starmer said in response to the collective punishment of Gazans.
I'm very clear. Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principles that Israel has a right to defend herself and Hamas bears responsibility for these terrorist acts. And I would call on all responsible states, particularly Middle East responsible states, to call this out for what it is, and to stand with the world in condemning, utterly condemning, these actions by Hamas.
The international community is condemning the actions taken by Hamas, but as you saw, he can't condemn the war crimes. In fact, he said very clearly that Israel has the right to do war crimes, even though he contradicted himself and said that they should follow international law. A siege is a violation of international law, but he can't condemn it. Now, Biden's administration is no different. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken initially tweeted out support for a ceasefire, then deleted that tweet once he got backlash. Now, Biden himself hasn't condemned Israeli war crimes, and he simply called for a proportionate response while vocalizing unequivocal support for Israel. But that's not to say that Biden doesn't care at all about the suffering of innocent Gazans, because he was merciful enough to at least allow them to be ethnically cleansed in lieu of them dying. For example, TikTok influencer Henry Sisson tweets, "Amazing. President Biden is working on a plan with other countries that would allow civilians to safely leave Gaza and cross the border into Egypt. This is great news. President Biden is making sure that innocent people don't die due to the actions of Hamas. That's leadership." Yeah. Now, as Michael Wave correctly points out, this is ethnic cleansing. There is no ability for Palestinians who leave to return. This isn't a good compromise. This is a population transfer. Has everyone lost their minds? And I had the same thought when I read that. Now, Sama Sabawi explains how her grandmother responded to the news, saying, "I told my family in Gaza to get out when I heard reports the U.S. is coordinating a plan to offer safe passage for civilians out of Gaza into Egypt. My auntie said, 'Do you guarantee we would be allowed to return?' I couldn't. I know ethnic cleansing when I see it. She refused to leave. Death or eternal refugeehood. What would you choose?" And therein lies the problem. Rather than using his influence to coordinate a call for an immediate ceasefire by the entire international community, the Biden administration is essentially giving Israel carte blanche to level Gaza. And I need you to understand, the United States government has a lot of power and say here. So every single day that the bombing goes on, it is a choice, a policy choice made by the Biden administration. Blood is also on his hands. Now, Biden is not an exception to the rule. He is the rule, because like his predecessors and virtually all Western governments, excluding Ireland, well, they don't view Palestinians as human beings. They don't view them as people. Their suffering is never taken into account. Israel always has the right to defend itself, but Palestinians do not, right? Israel needs immediate aid, but Palestinians do not. Israel needs an Iron Dome, but Palestinians do not. And understand that criticizing the actions of the Israeli government is not tantamount to criticizing Israeli citizens or the Jewish people. This is a government that is doing things, and what this government does is not representative of the people that they represent. I think that's really important to say. Now, the Biden administration, in choosing to do nothing, is effectively aiding and abetting a fascist prime minister who is hell-bent on genocide. And demonization and dehumanization of the Palestinian people has been the go-to method of the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu, and unfortunately, that strategy has been working. He even went so far as to ahistorically claim that Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews because the Muslim Grand Mufti of Jerusalem did. He convinced Hitler to do that. Because remember, Muslims are always the bad guys, and he will go to any length to make them look bad, including even defending Hitler. And also, Hamas. But don't take my word for it. Here's what he said about Hamas. Quote, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas, he told a meeting of his Likud party's Knesset members in March of 2019. This is part of our strategy, to isolate the Palestinians in Gaza from the Palestinians in the West Bank. So this is who Western liberal leaders are agreeing with. A far-right fascist whose goal is to wipe Palestinians off the face of the earth. He's not interested in negotiations or a two-state solution. He is interested in power and domination. And ironically, his rhetoric sounds eerily similar to the far right in the United States. For example, let's hear what Lindsey Graham had to say about Palestine, and in particular, Gaza.
We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
It's that simple. Level the place. Wipe 2.3 million people off the map just like that. No problem. Doesn't concern me at all. Just get rid of them. These people are monsters. Now, even though what he's saying there is obviously grotesque, and he's saying the quiet part loud, that sentiment right there is effectively the policy that liberals like Joe Biden and Keir Starmer are adopting. The question is, why? Why do liberal leaders suddenly sound like fascists in the United States when it comes to this issue? And the answer is simple. Follow the money. Organizations like AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel spend millions and millions of dollars lobbying politicians every single year at the behest of Israel. In fact, groups like DMFI specifically spend to defeat progressive politicians that advocate for Palestinian human rights. For example, Nina Turner had a 35-point lead over her opponent Chantel Brown, and it looked like victory was inevitable, only to later lose once Israeli interest groups began to spend big to defeat her. Now, to be crystal clear, the Israeli lobby is not lobbying on behalf of the Jewish people or even Israeli citizens. They are lobbying in the interest of the Israeli state, the Israeli government, right? And I think that that distinction is really important to make, given the prevalence of anti-Semitism.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Theories that propagate
Floating
harmful lies
orbs.
about Jewish people
Check
using
that out.
money to control the media and other institutions. That's wrong.
What the fuck is
and
that?
That lie must be defeated. But what we're talking about here is a government and not people. That distinction matters. And while the Israel lobby is large, it's not even the largest foreign spender in U.S. elections, right? When it comes to foreign lobbying, other countries like China, Qatar, Russia, and Saudi Arabia actually spend more than Israel. So this isn't an Israel problem. This is a money and politics problem in the United States. But if you ever wonder why our lawmakers make puzzling decisions, like they support weapon sales to Saudi Arabia, even if they know that those weapons are going to be used on innocent civilians in Yemen, well, you can thank lobbying for that. Yemen doesn't have a lobby, which is why our politicians are more likely to do what Saudi Arabia wants, right? Yemen can't counter the lobbying that Saudi Arabia does. And the same is true in this instance. Palestinians don't have a lobby that can counter the lobbying that's being done at the behest of Israel. They don't have comparable lobbying power, which is why almost all politicians unequivocally side with Israel, no matter what they're doing. It's why we see liberal politicians like Joe Biden and Obama side with the far-right government of Israel when that seems ridiculous. It's why Democrats like Richie Torres attack his own colleagues for condemning Israeli war crimes. I mean, look at his top campaign contributor. It's AIPAC. Always follow the money. But I mean, even if you refuse that money and lobbying, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be indirectly affected by the lobbying of these foreign governments. Because even if you don't take their money, well, if you speak out against them, they can bankroll your opponent and your career like that. Ask Nina Turner how that turns out. Which is why it's so rare to see politicians like Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush who speak out with clarity on this issue. It's why we hear so much thirst for blood. It's because these politicians are corrupt. Now, on the subject of Rashida Tlaib, a Palestinian American, just look at the way that politicians talk about her for simply saying that Palestinians deserve human rights. Now, she put up a flag in support of Palestine because she is a Palestinian. That's not going to change regardless of the circumstances. But pay close attention to what one of her colleagues said about Gaza as he's condemning Tlaib.
Rashida Tlaib has the, I don't even want to call it the Palestinian flag because
They're not a state, they're a territory that's about to probably get eviscerated and go away here shortly, as we're going to turn that into a parking lot.
We're gonna turn Palestine
man.
into a parking
Holy
lot. He
shit.
just said that on
Just
national
give him some
television.
nanites.
All this because
Thanks,
his
bro.
Palestinian colleague displayed a Palestinian flag. Now, on top of that, he also introduced legislation to ban her flag, by the way. But just for fun, let's take a look at who his top contributors are. Oh, look, it's the same organization that donates to Democrats, AIPAC. Therein lies the problem. This is why every politician, regardless of party, sounds the same. They're all taking money from the same interest groups, right? Now, you often hear about college students and journalists being blacklisted because they participate in a peaceful movement against Israeli apartheid, boycott, divestment, and sanctions. But do you think there's going to be any consequences for a sitting congressperson saying that we should turn Gaza into a parking lot? Of course not, because that type of dehumanizing rhetoric is normalized in the United States, and to be fair, in Europe as well, especially in the UK. So this is why we never hear about Palestinian suffering, because American politicians in both parties are paid to be complicit in their suffering and subjugation. And in theory, media could hold them accountable. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to explain this conflict of interest that politicians have and call them out for it. But the problem is they're not doing that because they're complicit and also ignorant to an extent. Take CNN's Wolf Blitzer, for example, who spoke to an American doctor trapped in Gaza currently as they're being bombed. And he seemingly learned for the first time in real time that there's nowhere for citizens to escape when they're being bombed.
You were there on a routine mission, a very important mission to take care of children. Were you prepared at all for this?
Well, whenever you go to Gaza, you always know that there's danger of some violence while you're there. But no, I wasn't. Well, sorry, prepared for this.
Let us know if you need to go into some sort of a bomb shelter or whatever, because I can hear those explosions going off right near you.
There are no bomb shelters here.
Is there any safe area that you can go to?
Yeah, actually I have a sister-in-law who's Palestinian. She tells me to stay away from the windows, so I'm away from the window, stay by corners of walls that are more fortified, and open your mouth so your eardrums don't break if there's a lot of pressure. So I'm following her advice, and I'm in a safe part of the room.
These are the people reporting on this subject, the people supposedly educating us about this conflict, completely ignorant of the details. And that ignorance is then exploited by Israel in order to cultivate a very narrow view of the entire situation. As Mondoweiss news director Yumna explains, the Israeli military is taking foreign press on tours of sites where Israelis were killed. Israeli media reported that only international outlets have been allowed on these government-sponsored tours. No local media has even been allowed to approach. At the same time, no foreign press are being allowed into Gaza, and so audiences in the West are being fed constant images of their favorite reporters cowering on the ground to take cover from rockets being fired from Gaza. It's why we're seeing countless reports like this one, where journalists are regurgitating lines and talking points fed to them by the Israeli army about decapitated Israeli babies, claims that are going unchecked and unverified. By taking only foreign press into these sites and feeding them info, Israel is again taking control of the narrative on the international stage. Western journalists are more than happy to play along, failing to do basic due diligence in conveying these stories to their audiences. And by not allowing local, Hebrew-speaking media into certain areas, Israel is shielding itself from the criticisms and growing frustrations of a population that could easily eventually turn on the government for failing to protect them. It's a win-win situation for Israel. It gets to put out to the world the images that it wants, dead Israelis, while limiting what it doesn't want the world to see or hear, real-life Gazans as human beings, and preventing its own people from the truth of its colossal failure, right? And it's very difficult to obtain accurate information during times of war because you really don't know what's true and what's false. It takes time to verify these things. It's called the fog of war for a reason. I mean, even a video that you're looking at could be misleading because you could be seeing something that looks legitimate, but it could be old. It could be from an entirely different region of the world. So you've got the fog of war, and on top of that, you have the added issue of this curated one-sided narrative that journalists are accepting from the Israeli government without verifying and fact-checking. And on top of that, you have the additional layer of ignorance from pundits. And if the people in media are ignorant, then the people who are being educated by them are also going to be ignorant. So this is a problem. This is why people are seemingly fine with calls to annihilate Gaza from the face of the world. And Israel wants you to only see Hamas's brutality because they hope that that justifiable anger that you feel when you see it will cultivate support for their barbarity in return. They want you to think that their response is proportionate. It's called manufacturing consent. Now, Cosmic Slop shares how the baby beheading story hasn't been verified, yet it has been reported widely by mainstream media. And also, he points out how the German girl who attended the Israeli music festival during the Hamas attack, thought to be dead, is actually alive. And in response, Scarlett makes a really good point saying, do any younger folks wonder how the media tricked a bunch of Americans into supporting the Iraq war and more, or does this clear it up? And I think that's a really good point, and it's something that we should all keep in the back of our minds. Odds are, if you're watching this, you're a good person. I think most people are good people. And powerful people are either wittingly or unwittingly exploiting your justifiable sense of outrage over violence to justify genocide and ethnic cleansing. And you can't let fear and emotions persuade you. You have to think clearly and understand that all human life is precious. The lives of Israeli citizens and Palestinians are precious. But the media doesn't want you to think about Palestinian suffering. For example, look at the questions that a BBC reporter asked a Palestinian man who just lost 6 family members. Look at what she continues to focus on as he explains how dire the situation is and the pain he just experienced.
They were just sitting at their home and they were simply bombarded. Their entire building was brought down. My cousin, Aya, her 2 children, her husband, her mother-in-law, and 2 other relatives died immediately, were killed instantly. And 2 of her youngest children, a twin, 2 years old, are now in intensive care. This is truly heartbreaking, and the issue here, Kirsty, is that they have no bunkers, they have no Iron Dome, they have nowhere to go. They are simply sitting ducks for the Israeli war machine.
I'm sorry for your own personal loss. I mean, can I just be clear, though? You cannot condone the killing of civilians in Israel, can you? Nor the killing of families.
No, we don't condone, and we are very clear, Kirsty. We reject any targeting or harming of civilians from all sides. And you are talking to a Palestinian representative, official, the ambassador, that I represent my government, the PLO, the national movement of Palestine, and we have been committed to this for 30 years, not just today or yesterday, for 30 years. Since the signing of the Oslo Accords, we have committed to non-violence, we have committed to negotiations, as you know.
Yes, and
so this is nothing new. That's why this question, we have done everything in our power to find a different path.
But we have a situation now, as you heard there from Mark, that Hamas may be an empty threat, threatening to kill hostages. Do you condemn that kind of action?
Listen, hostages must be protected and must be made safe and kept safe. Absolutely, this has no discussion whatsoever. We must return the moral high ground, and Israel must immediately cease targeting civilians. And by the way, Kirsty, allow me to say this. This is an Israeli military doctrine. They call it the Iron Dome. Whenever there is such an incident, they go after the civilians to pressure the fighters. So you've heard one of the Israeli
Well, we know there's been a lot of
just
strikes
2 minutes
today.
ago. He wanted to starve the people in Gaza. He wanted to cut electricity and water. These are war crimes, collective punishment.
So there is a possibility that both the UK and the European Commission will cut aid to Palestinians. What's your reaction to that?
That would be very, very counterproductive, and it doesn't serve anything. What they will do exactly what is Israel doing. They will do exactly the collective punishment and punishing the people who has nothing to do with this. My cousin is not Hamas. In fact, her husband works for the Palestinian Authority, the opponents of Hamas. These kids, 4 years and 2 years, have nothing to do with Hamas. Everybody, including these silly ideas in the world, are punishing the people that have
we know that children
Kirsty.
very young are also have died in Israel. So, in your view, is this a contained but appalling conflict between Hamas and Israel, Or do you think Hamas want to widen the conflagration?
No, it's Israel now that wants to widen
No, but
the scope. It's Israel.
But
that wants to
Hamas
widen
might
the
want
scope.
this whole area to be destabilized.
Well, Hamas is a militant group. We are the government. Israel has a government. There is the international community. The first and the most important priority now is to stop this madness.
That was so frustrating to watch because, like an NPC, she just kept asking the same questions. Yeah, I get that your family's dead, but do you think Hamas is bad or not? When he's explaining, he agrees with her, but she just won't take yes for an answer. And this is a microcosm of a bigger issue that we see with media when it comes to this. They just ignore the suffering of Palestinians. She's literally ignoring the suffering that his family has endured and just continues to ask him about Hamas. Now, in a different interview, he called out this double standard that's all too common with the mainstream media in the West, and I think that what he says here was important.
And the mainstream media for 75 years, you bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months? Do you invite me when there is such Israeli provocations in Jerusalem and elsewhere? Because what Israelis have seen, which we started by saying tragic, the last 48 hours, the Palestinians see every day for the last 50 years. You know the situation in Gaza, you've just described it.
And he is absolutely correct. And the reason why there's this callousness here is because Hamas is being conflated with Palestinians, which therefore places blame on Palestinians for all of the actions of Hamas. And that's a really convenient propaganda trick for a number of reasons. First, it justifies atrocities against Palestinians under the pretense that they struck first, for example. And also, anyone who vocalizes support for Palestinians is labeled a terrorist sympathizer because, again, in their eyes, Hamas and Palestinians are synonymous. Now, take Jake Tapper in the US, for example, who also promotes the same exact line of thinking.
These last few days have been a real eye-opening period for a lot of people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives, in terms of anti-Semitism on the left. A lot of people who seem more shocked at dehumanizing language used by world leaders to describe Hamas than what Hamas actually perpetrated on Saturday.
Yeah, so throughout this video, I've shown you countless examples of dehumanizing language being used. Did you once get the sense that I'm referring to Hamas? I am talking about Palestinian civilians who have nothing to do with Hamas. Now, you can point to anecdotes that are atrocious. For example, protesters were chanting gas to Jews at a pro-Palestinian rally in Sydney. BLM Chicago tweeted out a photograph saying they support Palestine with one of the Hamas paragliders. On top of that, some DSA protesters in Town Square were celebrating Hamas's actions. Now, Jake Tapper is likely using those examples to suggest that the left is anti-Semitic or supports Hamas. But this kind of reprehensible rhetoric is not a unique phenomenon to the left, right? And any leftist who advocates for Palestinian human rights is always asked if they condemn that type of rhetoric or if they condemn Hamas in the same way that Palestinians are asked if they condemn Hamas as they're explaining the suffering that their family is enduring. But politicians who unequivocally support Israel are never asked to denounce this sort of rhetoric.
Fuck Palestine! Palestine to my dick! Kill all Palestinians! All of them! Not one left from the river to the sea, Palestine will be deceased! And Israel need to do like this. You see? Now Gaza. Like this. Gaza need to do like this. Or like this, but all this Jewish. Two options.
What do you think the response should be to Gaza?
We gotta wipe them off the fucking map.
I'm
talking about every fucking flatten them like a parking lot.
Yeah, wait.
Flatten them out once and
There's
for all. Get rid of that.
nothing else you can do. They proved to us that there's nothing else you can do. We tried, and
We tried everything. It doesn't work. We have to wipe them flat off the fucking map, like a fucking parking lot. I'm not stopping till all Arabs are wiped out.
I think now it's the time that we need to erase Gaza. There is people inside, our people inside, that kidnap, and now we need to kill all of them and free Israel. All of their belief is killing Jewish and killing and murder our people.
Flatten it. Flatten Gaza.
That was video footage from a pro-Israel rally in New York. And, the call to flatten Gaza like a parking lot sounds pretty familiar. I feel like I've heard that before.
As we're going to turn that into a parking lot.
That's right. But you know, there's no calls for this kind of rhetoric to be condemned. None. Imagine if roles were reversed for a moment, and an Israeli who just lost their family in a Hamas attack was asked repeatedly, do you condemn that? Do you condemn what these people are saying? Completely ignoring the pain and suffering that that person is experiencing and trying to talk about. I think most people can understand that that would be unacceptable, because it is. But the reason why they're able to turn their brains off when it comes to Palestinian suffering is because, again, they don't view Palestinians as human beings. They've been dehumanized, hence the dehumanizing language that we're condemning. Now, my point in showing you all of that is not to resort to whataboutism and imply that one side's genocidal rhetoric is okay because the other side is doing it too. The point is to demonstrate that, again, you're only getting one side of the picture. You're not getting the full story. People who advocate for human rights are portrayed as anti-Semitic Cretans who support barbarism against innocent Israeli civilians, when that's not the case. All we are saying is that using one atrocity to justify a genocide and ethnic cleansing against a population of people who had nothing to do with what happened on Saturday is wrong. But nobody's willing to say that. And this dehumanization of Palestinians is reinforced through media again and again. It's reinforced by our politicians. And it's also disseminated by people with very large platforms, like ignorant celebrities. For example, Justin Bieber tweeted out a picture that says, "Pray for Israel," superimposed over a picture of destruction in Gaza. Now, as David Griscom puts it, Palestinians don't even get to own pain in US media. It's simply given away to Israel. And he's exactly right. Jamie Lee Curtis did the same thing. She made a post on Instagram in support of Israel, writing "terror from the skies" with an Israeli flag, not realizing that this was a picture of Palestinian children being bombed by Israel. And while Noah Schlapp from Stranger Things called for peace for Israelis and Palestinians, he also conflated Palestinians with Hamas, writing on Instagram, "You either stand with Israel or you stand with terrorism. It shouldn't be a difficult choice. Shame on you." Now, if this were an ordinary 18-year-old or 19-year-old, however old he is saying this, I just think, listen, you really need to work on your wording because you worded that in a very clumsy way. It sounds like you're saying that you think Palestinians are terrorists, and I hope that that's not what you mean. But the problem is that this is no ordinary young man. This is somebody with a very large platform. This is a celebrity, and a lot of people follow him. But the problem is that what he's saying isn't going to get much pushback because he's just parroting the mainstream narrative, right? He's effectively putting out this idea that is popular and prevalent that if you don't support Israel unconditionally, if you don't support this far-right fascist government who's overseeing a brutal regime of apartheid who wants to wipe Gazans off the map, then you must support terrorists. It's a binary choice. Support fascism or you support terrorism. There's no nuance allowed. But again, this idea is just something that we see, it's ubiquitous, right? He's just parroting what he sees. So the media has failed here. Now, believe it or not, media has gotten better over the years, but there's still a lot of work to be done, obviously. But as it stands now, the media is likely going to continue to manufacture consent for war crimes and genocide in Gaza by repeatedly showing you exclusively images of brutality from Hamas and never showing you what's happening in Gaza. Now, to be fair, it's very difficult to get accurate information and images from Gaza when they don't have electricity. But if you want to be informed, the information is out there. And listen, you're right to be outraged by the brutality of Hamas. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or you're a bad person or you don't care about Palestinians if you are hyper concerned about the suffering Israelis because you have family there. You're right to be outraged by that, of course. But remember that Israelis aren't the only people suffering right now. Many people are suffering. Palestinians in Gaza already had no access to clean water. Most of them did not have access to clean drinking water. They struggled to get the medicine that they needed, and now they just lost power and they're being bombed to death, and people around the world are celebrating their deaths and calling for them to be extinct. So, I mean, all I'm saying here is that if you turn a blind eye to that, then you don't have the moral high ground. So it's really important to understand that as calls for genocide get louder, as politicians and media pundits tacitly and overtly endorse the extinction of Palestinians, understand that these are real human beings and they are not responsible for the actions of
I'm
Hamas.
still
and
too
treating them
close
that
to my
way
last base. Come the fuck
is
on.
completely unacceptable. Innocent civilians, women and children are dying right now, and I think that if you care about human suffering, you should care about them too, because they are human beings, contrary to popular belief.
Are you fucking kidding me? How the fuck am I supposed to extract minerals if they're too close to my base? If they're like just out of range out of my base. What the fuck?
Whatever, it's not a selling point. They could have gotten away with giving us so much less, a fraction of what they gave us, and they could have taken the effort to make each of those planets a little bit more interesting, animals and plants.
Whatever.
More interesting topography and landmarks and stuff. More interesting dungeons to explore and quests
So
to
fucking
stumble
stupid.
upon. It could have been so much more purposefully crafted and interesting. But no, as it is, it's just a giant galaxy full of blech. As it is, exploring planets is not really worth doing unless you have a quest that has brought you to a planet. Otherwise, it's no fun to just land and start going, start looking for stuff. No, it's really not worth doing. And I will remind you again, I can do tedium. I can enjoy fluff. I love collecting resources. Like, on paper, this game is a dream come true. All these things to collect and scan. It's a Bethesda RPG, but there's like infinite stuff to explore and collect, and you can even build stuff and build bases, and you can research all this different stuff and upgrade and craft and everything. As far as like stuff to do and crafting goes, this is so much deeper than any other Bethesda game that I have played. And yet it's just not interesting. And I will now talk about the other reason that this doesn't really work. You know, having just too much, having it too dilute, that is a big problem. But for me, there's a very, very humongous problem with this game. It's that the world itself, the universe that they have created, is just not interesting. Let's go back to Elder Scrolls and Fallout. These worlds, they're full of tedium. They're full of fluff. But the worlds are also consistently fun to be in. They're consistently creative and interesting. And that hooks you into the formula, you know? Like, it's fascinating exploring the world of Skyrim and reading books and just kind of learning how this world works. It's a very weird, fantastical fantasy world. And then Fallout is very bleak and desolate.
Sodium.
But, like, it's still interesting. It's got these frozen in time 1950s elements, and yet for some reason when we got to the 50s we were like, technology was way further.
So what do I
ahead
have?
than
Sodium, copper,
kind of
and
futuristic
sulfurous?
sci-fi, and everybody's trying to live in this world and it's full of mutants and everyone's trying to rebuild. It's
Sulfurine.
just interesting. Starfield has none of that. Visually, it's super duper bland. And I guess this is why the game never really looked that appealing to me in the initial trailers and stuff. They call it NASA punk because it takes a very realistic take on sci-fi. Like, you could actually, you know, hundreds of years from now, if we go into space and we've all got our own ships, I could see it looking like this. It's got a very gritty, kind of realistic feel, and I can definitely appreciate that in its own way, but it's just not fun. It's not interesting to look at. Visually, it's just so boring. There's very little in the way of any kinds of visuals or locations or anything in this game that is captivating. A couple of the cities look all right, but like, that's it. It's mostly just endless space station, ship, abandoned mine, military base hallways. It's just corridors. You spend most of your time in boring corridors. Worse though, much, much worse. Conceptually, it's just bland. It's bland. That's the only word I can think to use. It is one of the most by-the-books, unimaginative takes on a spacefaring future humanity possible. There's no like weird or fun, interesting technology that these people have access to that makes you go, oh wow, the future's really cool. I have not found very much in the way of fun world building. It's your standard like, oh, at a certain point Earth was uninhabitable, so we went into space. And now you've got the United Federation military corporate machine. and you've got the rebellious pirates, and like that's it. That's the world. Like that's it. It's same old, same old. There aren't even aliens. That to me is unforgivable. Weird aliens and like exploring their cultures and their personalities, and even just looking at them, they look different. That is so much of the fun of sci-fi. That's why sci-fi is a thing. And I don't doubt that there are aliens somewhere in the game, but like, you know, built into the canon of this place, if there are aliens out there,
All right,
you've never met 'em.
oxygen.
You've never seen
It's
any
good
of them.
enough.
It's all just a bunch of boring humans. It's just so nothing. There is just nothing about this world to captivate me. There's nothing about it that stands out from any other sci-fi. It's paint by numbers sci-fi. And it's also just like unnecessarily bleak. Like everybody is in horrible poverty, even though there seems to be just like a vast galaxy full of resources just for the taking, but for some reason everyone is miserable and like nobody helps anyone else. If you ever help someone, you give them money, or even if you just help them fight off pirates, they're like, a person helping another person just to do it? That's never happened. That's never happened because we all live in such a miserable world. We're all so horrible to each other that is simply unheard of. It's just bleak. It's not fun. Why? I mean, it's kind of a sore spot for me in general with games, how it's like I'm trying to have a fun game. Do you have to push the whole humanity is bad thing? Is that really where the story always has to go? Is just like, let's explore all the ways that people are bad and people take advantage of each other. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it gets old. And what's so frustrating about this whole issue is that it is not an issue born of any kind of limitation in design or in capabilities of the hardware or anything like that. This is a purely creative issue. When they were planning and writing the game in the early stages, they were building this world. This is simply the world that they decided to build. They decided to build a sci-fi world. With nothing really interesting about it, and no aliens, nothing weird, nothing like fantastical. The main quest line does get into like a little bit more mystical. Oh, there's a weird artifact, and you see in visions, and then you get powers or whatever. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but it also kind of just comes off as so generic and so like one and done that it doesn't really have much of an impact. And outside of that, there's just very little in the way of that fun mysticism, that mystery. It's just like, it wouldn't have been harder for them to write something else. They just didn't want to. And like, I can respect their integrity. This was the sci-fi world they wanted to make, and that was their decision, and I'm just disappointed that it does not mesh with me personally. And it's especially unfortunate because I can see the effort they put into this game. I can see the care. There is a wealth of story in this game. We're talking novels upon novels of quests and little stories and just dialogue, so much dialogue. I mean, it's unprecedented. You know, Bethesda, they've always been the best at this, and they have really pushed the boundaries, you know? Like, this is probably 5 times more dialogue and story and stuff than, like, the next game down. It's unprecedented. It's incredibly impressive what they have done. And I can see that in there are some interesting stories to be found. I've had a couple little quests that I thought were kind of cool, a couple characters that are kind of fun, and I'm sure if I kept playing, there would be more. I would find more. There's got to be more good stuff in there, but there's not enough. There's just not enough that feels worth engaging with. There's so much to do and so many NPCs to talk to, and yet this is the first Bethesda game where I have found myself kind of skipping dialogue, you know? Like you have a conversation with an NPC and there's all these different things to ask about, or you could just get to the heart of the matter and ask about the one thing to progress the conversation. I find myself just progressing. I'm just like, yeah, I could. Oh, how long have you been on the station? What's it like around here? I don't care. I don't care. Because this character isn't interesting enough. This space station isn't interesting enough. I don't care what anyone does around here. It's too bland. And because I can't connect with the world and the characters and the story and all that stuff, everything else stops working. The entire formula starts to break down. Now instead of like fun fluff, quests are just kind of, I'm just following the quest markers, just fast traveling to here, to there, kill the pirates here, kill the pirates there, fast travel from point A to point B to point C. You're just following map markers. I certainly don't feel engaged enough to want to go and explore planets and collect resources and upgrade all my stuff and get a better ship and all that stuff. And then that's what's so frustrating, is that whole thing slowly getting stronger, gathering the resources and upgrading. Like, it could be amazing. There's the potential to get so lost in it and to feel so cool after playing for 200 hours and having such a cool ship and being rich and having this empire. I bet that could be amazing. Incremental progress is awesome when you're really locked in, because it gives you a lot to play and a lot to work toward. But because I'm not engaging, that incremental progress is just like, ugh, why? Why bother? Why go on this quest to get like 3,000 credits? Why explore this planet and go into that mine just to pick up a couple extra bits of minerals? I just don't care enough. And not engaging with the world also kind of makes like the cracks in the Bethesda formula a lot more obvious. Like, there is something to be said for the Bethesda charm. You know, like the games that I have played, it's fun. The jankiness, it's part of the fun. All the NPCs are so weird and awkward. Like, there's definitely an element of that where, like, I have a fondness for it. And I am happy to a degree that this is a Bethesda game and it plays like a Bethesda game. But it's that charm, it's just a lot less charming now. It's okay to use the same formula, but I kind of wish that they had pushed the formula a little bit more, evolved it. I wish that this felt more like a modern version of the formula. But it really doesn't. It really feels like it's just kind of stuck in the past. It's still janky. You still have NPCs all around you, all like talking awkwardly over each other, and then you just, oh, now I have a quest. I didn't actually hear what that person said because there were 10 people talking, but I guess I have a quest now, and I'll go follow the map marker wherever it leads me. You talk to characters like from behind, and they like take way too long to turn and look at you fast enough, you know? You enter a room, and all the items on all the desks kind of like fall, like they loaded in and now they're tumbling everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You know, I get in trouble for a really stupid reason, and I can't even talk to the people to like pay a fine. They just open fire on me. Everywhere I go, everyone in the world is just shooting at me, and it's like really hard to fix the problem. Early on in the game, I get stuck in the first city because I don't realize I have to do one specific thing for the main quest, or else I literally can't fast travel, and I'm looking up FAQs everywhere. Why can't I fast travel? Because this is a thing that I had to do that the game wouldn't tell me. Other stuff that just seems completely inexcusable, like item management is terrible. Between like your own inventory and your ship's inventory, and you have to like find a box somewhere in your base that has unlimited storage, and you're always going back and forth between them. It's super tedious. The menus are
Copper?
atrocious. The UI is
I already have a
sluggish.
copper
The
deposit.
maps are
Fuck.
almost worthless. They're so annoying to navigate. Even after dozens of hours, it's just awkward. Nothing about the
I need to
menus or
find
the
a
maps
phosphorus.
feels right.
Fuck.
This is the future. Why do I not have a map of the town that I'm in? In the present, the real life
I really
world that
need
we are
phosphorus.
in, I have a map of the town that I am in. Why don't I in this game? And then, of course, straight up glitches. It's not the most glitchy Bethesda game ever at launch, which is like apparently the high praise that everyone's been giving it. But like, it still happens way too much. You know, I've got 2 conversations both loading at once here. Lots of freezes, lots of crashes, quest markers not loading right, things just in general kind of just going wrong and not working. And then, something that feels so much more inexcusable than anything else, the loading times are way too long. This whole entire generation, their whole thing, the only real selling point they had was solid state drives to cut down on loading times. Look at all these games, they don't even have loading screens anymore. Loading screens are like a second long. And yet, leave it to Bethesda to have like the only current gen game that I have played with significant loading screens, and a game with so much fast travel that you see so many of those loading screens. And none of them are terrible. None of them are probably like as bad as, you know, playing Oblivion back in the day or whatever. But it's still so much more than it should be, especially because I know it just feels like I'm nitpicking the heck out of this, but It all makes sense in my head. It doesn't even make sense that the load times are so long because on a technical level, nothing about this game feels that impressive. They marketed this as like, oh my gosh, it's the biggest game that's ever existed. This is a true next-gen Bethesda RPG, but like, it does not feel like it. Nothing in the game looks that good. At the absolute best, you have fine, pretty good, solid, but then it only goes down from there. There are some elements, especially like on planets, straight up bad. Like, not exaggerating, looks like an Xbox 360 game. And then like, I'm not a frame rate snob at all. I don't actually care that it runs at 30 FPS, but I find it weird that it runs at 30 FPS considering it doesn't really look that good.
Oxygen, we already have
The
that.
whole space thing, like nothing about it is so big that I think, wow, yeah, this is only doable this gen. Like, no, there's no one environment that seems so grand and amazing that I couldn't see it running on an Xbox One. It doesn't do any one thing well enough to kind of justify any of its limitations, you know? If it doesn't look that great, why does it not run that great? If it doesn't run or look that great, why doesn't it load faster? I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me. I have a lot of very critical things to say about Starfield, but I have to say again, it's not a bad game. It's really not. All of this is really just coming more from a place of personal disappointment, because it is a good game. You know, it is very big. There is a lot to do. There is a lot of story, and I could see any number of people being totally into it, falling head over heels in love with it like I did with those other games so long ago. It's got a lot of good elements. It's got good story. You know what? One thing I really want to point out is the voice acting. The voice acting is really good. The Bethesda games I've played, it felt like there were a lot more like repeating voice actors, but here there's a really extremely wide range of actors. The quality is good. They all have a wide range of personalities and voices. This world is very diverse. A lot of different accents and
Personalities.
stuff. So I do want to give the game credit for it. I'm sure the game deserves credit in a lot of different areas. There is stuff to enjoy. I just wanted to like it more. And I had fun with it. I did have fun with it. I played it for a few dozen hours. Pretty okay amount of time in my book.
Phosphorus, holy shit, potential class A. Holy shit, hold on. Where is it? Right here? Fucking perfect. Oh! We got phosphorus. Oh. I forgot why I wanted phosphorus so bad, but I came across some shit that I really needed that I could either make with phosphorus, or I just straight up needed phosphorus for it. Let me flatten this ground.
It just hard to find quests that sounded actually fun to do. I was scouring every bar in the galaxy for cool companions and finding nothing. I was only finding these like boring, kind of grating weirdos. So that was disappointing. I just wanted a fun friend and I couldn't even find one. And like I could feel that this was gonna be one of those games where it's like I'm having fun. I'm like fairly kind of hooked into the formula, but once I put the game down for more than like a day or two, I'm not gonna want to pick it back up again, and that's exactly what happened. I went one too many days without picking it up, and then I found myself with a little free time reaching for the controller and just being like, I don't think I want to. I just don't want to anymore. Starfield is huge. It can be fairly exciting. It's really ambitious. It is something so special and unique in the realm of games when it comes to just story and dialogue and stuff. Really unique and really admirable. But it just doesn't do any other one thing well enough to keep me engaged. Its interesting characters and stories are lost in a sea of paint-by-numbers filler. Its fun gameplay is spread thin across a myriad of tedious systems and activities. Its truly engaging quest lines are few and far apart, and they're diluted by an ocean of bland, repeating content. I know a lot of people hate it when you compare games, but I'm doing it. I love comparing games. To bring up Mass Effect again, I love Mass Effect so much. And you know what? I tried not to, but I thought about it the whole time I was playing Starfield. Because just about everything that you can do in Starfield, you can also do in Mass Effect. In some ways, they're very similar. In Mass Effect, these activities are so much more limited. Way less freedom, less to accomplish overall, less just like systems, less overall content. In terms of scope, it's apples and oranges. Mass Effect, it is a fraction of what you can do in Starfield. And yet, every one of those things that they both do, Mass Effect does better. Way better. The writing is better. The universe is more interesting. It has more to say about the nature of humanity. It's got aliens. It's got cool, fun, weirdo aliens. And even the tedious stuff is a bit more fun because there's a limit to it. You know, it ends ever. And because all of that stuff at the very least feeds into your main quests and all that. Honestly, I just think Starfield.
I'm gonna build a lot of
I mean, like,
supply
obviously
depots
there
for
is
this
the
one.
creative issue, just the world that they decided to build. I will always have a problem with that. But it could have been so much better if they just hadn't decided to make it a huge million trillion planets. In the end, it just didn't pay off. It was not necessary. It did not do the game any favors. They would have been so much better off giving us 100 planets, or even like a few dozen, 50. That would have still
12
been
planets would have been good enough. One planet is fucking massive.
places, and yet they
Are
could
you
have made
are you kidding?
each one so much more interesting. They could have made exploring them all a thing that you actually wanted to do. They probably still could have fit the same amount of NPCs and quests and stories and dialogue and all that stuff, even if they had just shrank down the scope a little bit. As it is, though, Starfield is a whole bunch of fine. It is an ocean of fine. A galaxy of fine, as it were. And I was hoping for more. But, oh well. Can't win them all, I guess. Better luck next time. See you in 14 years.
PlayStation is making moves with cloud gaming and their PS Plus subscription service. In the wake of criticism about raising the annual price of PS Plus by lowering the yearly discount, PlayStation is adding cloud and other features to PS Plus Premium on the PlayStation 5 itself. And looking at the blog that announced this, it seems that PlayStation may be hinting about future cloud capabilities for the PlayStation Portal, which is something that many of us have speculated about. This also comes after our coverage that we did in August of 2023 about PlayStation potentially leapfrogging over Xbox in cloud gaming, offering features that have been long promised by Xbox for xCloud, like 4K streaming and playing games that you own. Now, I put all of the good information right here at the beginning in the form of a monologue because this is a longer video. It's a live stream, so if you like this kind of content, be sure you hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my live shows. PlayStation has announced PS5 cloud streaming coming to PS Plus Premium, and this may come as a welcome surprise and feature ad after they lowered the annual discount for PS Plus. And PS Plus Premium saw the biggest jump in its annual price.
I finally got a phosphorus farm. Fucking beautiful. Oh my god.
And also, it seems to hint at the potential implementation for the PlayStation Portal. And my research is pointing me in that direction of the Portal being more than what many think it will be. So first, I want to look at what they said. How will it work? When is it coming? And also consider the price increase along with new info about shows and movies coming to PS Plus Premium. Second, I want to ask the question, what about the PlayStation Portal? I've continued to say that I believe many are writing this device off too quickly. I also theorize that we might see cloud gaming roll out to this in the future, and it seems that may be the case. Lastly, I want to look at our previous coverage and consider how PlayStation seems to be beating Xbox in cloud gaming. We previously leaned heavily on a Windows Central article from Jez Corden about this. He expressed concern about the leapfrogging situation. We also looked at Insider Gaming at the time. They had sources with respect to the proprietary tech that was developed for PlayStation's cloud gaming architecture. When you combine this with the potential of the Portal
And
and
Gluck
its price
Gluck.
point, this could be a step in a
Let's check
very,
out that
very
settlement.
big plan. So first, what did they say? PlayStation recently announced via their PlayStation blog that PS5 cloud streaming was coming
Oh,
to
what up,
PS
guys?
Plus premium members. We have info about what will initially be included. We have rollout dates. We have info about quality options that will be available. When looking at this announcement, I also want to consider what essentially served as a price increase.
Is this
for
a settlement
price
that I
hike
can
for
build?
PS Plus. Recently, they lowered
On my home
the
planet?
annual discount for PS
I don't know if
Plus,
I have the
and
resources
PS
for
Plus
that.
Premium got hit the
Oh,
hardest.
boy, I think it
Essentially,
is.
Everybody saw this as a pretty big price hike.
Oh, no.
While PS5 cloud streaming, along with some other announcements recently about movies and TV shows, may soften the price bump blow. So, what exactly did this blog say? The title of the blog is "The PS5 Cloud Streaming Launches This Month for PlayStation Plus Premium Members." So this is something that they are doing for the upper tier of PlayStation Plus. And according to this blog, it is coming the month of October, this month, the month that they announced it in. They said, starting this month, we will begin launching cloud streaming access for supported PS5 digital titles within the PlayStation Plus game catalog and game trials, as well as supported titles in the PS5 game library that PlayStation Plus Premium members own. Now they have asterisks like next to the game catalog word and game trials because titles and regions may vary. So you may have access to certain things that maybe your friend doesn't, depending on where you live in the world. So what will be included in this? Well, they say the following. Select PS5 titles will be available for streaming, and we're planning to have hundreds of PS5 titles to support this new benefit. This includes, they got like bullet points here, top PS5 hits from the PlayStation Plus game catalog, such as Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima, Mortal Kombat 11, and Saints Row 4. So they're listing some of the top PS5 hits that will be available. Again, they do want to add more as time goes on. This is always a challenge with cloud gaming, is the initial rollout and getting titles. More on that in a second. Game Trials is also listed here for PS5 games such as Hogwarts Legacy, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and The Callisto Protocol. Additional PS5 digital titles PlayStation Plus Premium members own that will be available for streaming, such as Resident Evil 4, Dead Island 2, Genshin Impact, Fall Guys, and Fortnite. Fall Guys and Fortnite especially is a really nice win that you're able to play this cloud if you're sort of maybe not wanting to download or you're just wanting to jump on and test it. That would add layers of latency. Typically multiplayer games are the least ideal games to play through cloud. For me, the game trials expanding and getting cloud would be a pretty nice win because especially if latency is minimal. So many games come out and being able to try them and not have to download them to do the trial, like if you're only going to play for an hour or so just to see if the game's worth it, not having to wait on the download, like that's a really nice benefit to being on that PlayStation Plus premium level. Trying out games is a future that I hope grows more and more for consumers to try before they buy. Now, what sort of features will it come with? Well, according to the blog, PlayStation Plus Premium members will also see features available with new PS5 streaming benefits, including downloadable content and in-game purchases will be available for PS5 game streaming, including DLC and add-ons similar to purchases from downloadable games. And this is the most important part that many people are zeroing in on. High-quality resolution options, including 4K, 1440p, 1080p, and 720p with 60 FPS and SDR or HDR output. The 4K and the 1440 is a nice look, considering not all of the cloud streaming options that are out there offer anything above 1080. So having the 1440 and the 4K is a nice feature. They're also going to have enhanced audio and support for all PS5 audio capabilities, including 5.1 and 7.1, as well as Tempest 3D.
I got a phosphorus deposit. I can finish getting my exosuit upgrades,
which will be downloaded to your media gallery on PS5 and also available in the media gallery. So the resolution option is probably the biggest deal in the cloud gaming space. It's been a requested feature for xCloud for a while, and that one currently only goes up to 1080, and it's been that way for quite some time. Now, they are currently targeting rollouts in the following places: Japan targeting October 17th, Europe targeting October 23rd, North America targeting October 30th. Now, the thing to consider is the recent PS Plus price increase. They actually did not raise the monthly cost of PS Plus, but they lowered the annual discount. Typically, anytime you buy an entire year of a subscription, they give you a discount. And the discount on PS Plus was pretty significant, and now it is not as significant, so it's basically a price hike for many consumers who buy the entire year. This obviously caused a stir of complaints and criticism, and I said at the time that, listen, if you're going to increase what the customer is spending, adding features can soften the blow. In addition to the PS5 cloud streaming announcement, we are also hearing about movies and TV shows. According to Engadget, PS Plus premium subscribers can now stream up to 100 Sony movies at no extra cost. In the article, they state the following. Sony has released its own movie streaming app for PlayStation 4.
I don't watch movies, I want to play video games.
Movies through the Sony Pictures Core app.
Fuck are they giving me movies for? I don't want that shit.
And Deluxe. So,
I want Wolverine.
It says here that members will get
Coda
access
remake.
to a library of up to 100 ad-free Sony Pictures films at no extra cost. Sony says the lineup includes movies such as Looper, Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy, Elysium, and Resident Evil Damnation. The library will receive periodic updates. The company also plans to add some anime content from Crunchyroll to Sony Pictures Core, and it notes that the benefits of all PS Plus subscribers are on the way. So they're adding essentially more to this than just like game catalog that gets updated and then game trials, and PS5 cloud streaming is nice, but they're also adding this as well. There is another benefit as well. It says here that PS4 and PS5 users will be able to buy some Sony Pictures films during an early access window. Right now, folks in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand can buy Gran Turismo, the movie, through their console before it's available for digital purchase elsewhere. And the app is being rebranded. It was previously called Bravia Core, but it is now Sony Pictures Core app. So this seems like a full court press to make PlayStation Plus just more appealing, and for some it may justify the annual increase on that price point. In very quick fashion, PS Plus Premium is getting movies, TV shows, and now rolling out and adding more titles as time goes on. PS5 cloud streaming is here. But what about the portal, right? That's the question. Is the portal going to be a part of this cloud streaming? One of the main questions about PlayStation Portal has been, will it have cloud gaming at launch, or at even some point in the future? In the recent PS5 cloud streaming announcement, the blog that PlayStation put out, I believe we may have our first hint at what will be coming. I have also done my own research. I have spoken to sources, I've looked at publicly available information, and I believe it is right to notice one particular thing from the PlayStation blog. And the line is this. They say the following. PS5 cloud streaming is exclusively available on PS5 console.
I already got this one. What the fuck?
I don't know why they would need to
Come
say
on.
PS5 cloud streaming is exclusively available on the PS5 console at launch. I mean, it's in the name, right? It's PS5 cloud
I didn't
streaming.
save it,
But
though?
cloud
What?
streaming through PlayStation Plus was already available, so this is specific
do
to
every
the
one.
PS5 cloud streaming thing that they are announcing. I believe they said this because eventually PS5 cloud streaming will be available on the PlayStation Portal. Think about what the PS Portal is.
Okay,
It is a controller
whatever.
with a screen and Wi-Fi, and that Wi-Fi allows you to connect remotely to your PS5 and play
Point
games on
nookie.
it. That's literally what cloud gaming is. You remote into another device and you play games on that device remotely.
Nookie,
and
nookie.
something that many don't know or continue to report incorrectly, you do not have to be on your home Wi-Fi to use the portal. I believe they are primarily focusing on using your home Wi-Fi in their marketing, in their positioning, because they want that to be your first experience. In the testing environments and the preview environments that we have heard about, early impressions are when you're on the same Wi-Fi, there is virtually no latency. CNET played Returnal and had no issues with latency or delay, and that's a game where you cannot have any latency or delay or hiccups or problems. So if most of the consumers who buy a PlayStation Portal experience it in the best environment first on their home Wi-Fi, they're likely to connect the dots as to why it might be laggy or weird on Starbucks Wi-Fi or their friend's Wi-Fi. Now, in my research about this, I spoke to some various sources who are in the know, people that are, in tune with what's going on here. Platforms like GeForce Now had a ton of games in beta, and then when it went into production, a lot of the games disappeared. This is actually linked to the individual EULAs of each game. A EULA, a E-U-L-A, is an end user license agreement. So basically, the license agreement on every game is different, and it complicates things. Yes, you have a license to play that game, but the EULA may not allow you to cloud stream it on another service. So you could own a game on your PlayStation or your Xbox, but that doesn't mean that the EULA of that particular game allows you to stream it on a cloud service like GeForce Now. Now, in walks PlayStation 5 streaming, and the potential to stream PlayStation 5 games on a PS5 accessory like the PlayStation Portal. It removes the red tape. It streamlines the process. Just a side note, this could be one of the reasons why Jim Ryan was hesitant to sign the Call of Duty contract with Microsoft. Much of that contract was redacted. It could have been related to cloud allowances in the EULA for future Call of Duty titles. If my instinct and gut on this is correct, and it seems to be according to the sources that I spoke to privately, the PlayStation Portal could be more significant as a device than anybody realizes. If they put out a PS5 cloud streaming update to the PlayStation Portal before or around the time the Nintendo Switch 2 hits, you would have a PlayStation 5 cloud gaming device for $199 versus a Switch that will likely be at a higher price point this time around, according to the leaks that we have heard. According to Brad Sams, the recent price bump on the PlayStation 5 digital new model is a sign that PlayStation isn't even factoring Xbox into the console landscape anymore. They don't even feel the need to compete on price because Xbox is going in a different direction, focusing primarily on the Series S. If they're able to take aim at a portable gaming and cloud gaming market with a cheap to produce and low price device, that could be huge for PlayStation. Since nothing has been said publicly to confirm anything I've just talked about, we have to take this sort of a reading between the lines, along with my own research and speaking to sources privately. And you can come to your own conclusion. Will the PlayStation Portal become a cloud gaming device? Only time will tell. But the last thing to consider is, does this confirm the concern from August that PlayStation is beating Xbox in cloud? Is PlayStation beating Xbox to the punch in cloud gaming? Like, it seems like an almost nonsensical question to ask given who owns Xbox, but in my previous
See, this is why we need a map, because now my fucking compass and my screen is just cluttered with all these fucking icons.
Cloud gaming was going to allow them to, quote, leapfrog over Xbox. His concern was about a variety of things. First, the promise of being able to
Nope, I'm trying to go to my fucking draw pod.
It's been a long-awaited feature for xCloud, and his frustrations was that PlayStation was going to offer the feature first. Yes, it's only going to be a select group of games at first, but the point stands. If you own the game and it's on the list, you can cloud stream it. Secondly, 4K streaming was a concern. xCloud is currently only going up to 1080-60. PS5 cloud streaming will have 4K, 1440, 1080, and 720, all with 60 FPS, and SDR and HDR output. The optics on this, from the consumer standpoint, is that PlayStation will have more and better features for cloud gaming on their console. And from a corporate perspective, if I'm Microsoft, this simply cannot stand. Losing in cloud gaming or falling behind is simply not an option for them. It is intrinsic to their ecosystem strategy. So, at the time, in my coverage, this was a couple of months ago, I said, listen, I don't think Microsoft is going to take this lying down. As it stands right now, we haven't seen any major moves from them with cloud other than giving rights to Ubisoft in certain regions to get the CMA to approve the merger. But that could be why they haven't done much or said much. Once the Activision deal is complete, we may see a strong push from Xbox with xCloud and Game Pass. But another thing to consider is the tech leaks from Insider Gaming. The PlayStation Cloud architecture has been developed, and they had sources about it. In the same week in August that Windows Central had the article about PlayStation potentially winning in cloud against Xbox, Insider Gaming published an article entitled Details on PlayStation's Project Kronos Cloud Streaming for the PS5. Now, in the article, Insider Gaming sources had provided them with information on the streaming architecture. The impetus for all of this reporting was that the PS5 Cloud Beta rolled out and screenshots of 4K streaming were circulating and making the rounds. Insider Gaming said the following: It's understood that the development of Chronos began 5 years ago due to the complexity surrounding the PlayStation 5's SSD. While the SSD is a very fast in the PS5, it created a new challenge that made it impossible for Sony to develop the infrastructure needed using current technology on the market. So the PS5's SSD made current infrastructure and tech incompatible or obsolete at some level. Well, what did that mean for Sony? Well, more from the article. This meant that Sony, under the Future Technology Group, designed a completely new network storage solution based on PCIe, which leverages NTB and the PS5 I/O co-processors. And what was the result of this? So they had to basically build something proprietary because of the PlayStation 5 SSD, and this is what happened. The final product is a custom storage server under the codename Cura, which reads up to 5 gig a second with under 1 millisecond of latency. Sources said that Sony will have a total of 28 data centers across 15 metros for the PS5 cloud streaming rollout, and its plans to fully launch the feature in fiscal year 23, which is between April 23 and March of 2024. Now, I am told by folks in the know, who know more about this than me, that the 5 gig a second with less than 1 millisecond of latency is impressive and quite good for cloud gaming. And the rollout lines up with what we're seeing, right? By March of 2024, they want this thing fully rolled out with 28 data centers. Well, that's 5 months away, and the beginning is starting right now. Now, if you combine this tech with the potential of turning on cloud gaming for the PlayStation Portal device, we could be looking at an even stronger position for Sony over the next 2 years. Beating Xbox to market with 4K cloud streaming games you own, and potentially a cloud gaming device for $199, this makes sense why Microsoft is focusing on an acquisition the scale of Activision. They are going to need content and control of said content. Because if my research into cloud gaming is correct, the EULAs, the user license agreements of each game, that determines whether or not it can be streamed via cloud gaming on another device or on another service. So if Xbox owns Activision games, those EULAs can be adjusted to make streaming on PS5 cloud streaming impossible. So the select list of games that PlayStation likely wants to grow would start hitting walls. This may add context to the future buying war that we are likely to see in the wake of the Activision deal finishing. Companies will want control of content and the user agreements if cloud gaming continues to become more endemic to the gaming economy. Streaming a game on your TV or phone is going to become more and more common, especially if internet infrastructure can improve over the next 10 years. In America especially, it has largely stagnated because internet company consolidation happened, 10 or 15 years ago, and they basically lied to the American public. Thank you, consolidation. But the growth of cloud services and cloud gaming could maybe apply pressure to the ISPs to improve infrastructure in the coming years. But if Sony manages to get a strong footing in cloud gaming, the content ball will have to be bought through acquisitions to bring the ball back to Xbox's court, and that seems to be their play. The good news is more features and options are coming to gamers. The bad news is we have to wait. So let me give you my thoughts and my conclusions here. Cloud gaming continues to feel like a fog out in the distance, right? It's like we see it, we know it's there. Most people do not get close enough to grasp what it is or what it offers. Beyond that, the quality of your home internet can make a great service and a great experience feel like garbage. That will continue to be a barrier and hurdle for this type of technology. You can build the greatest architecture and servers in the world. If my neighborhood internet stinks, I'm never going to know it. The second thing I want to say is the PlayStation Portal is starting to look like an unassuming secret weapon. What many decried as stupid, DOA, or unnecessary may be what is needed for PlayStation's cloud gaming future. If a device for $199 can offer a large library of PlayStation titles and third-party games for cloud gaming, that could be a huge advantage for Sony in the market. First, it would be an advantage against Xbox because they would have the features first and they would have their own device. But secondly, this could let them stand next to the Switch and be a compelling offer, especially at that price point. My conclusion is this. I'm always hesitant to get excited about brand new technology. It's really hard not to, but in this circumstance, there are so many variables. What if the Wi-Fi you're connected to is bad? What if the internet provider's bad? What if your local infrastructure or neighborhood, it's old or it's oversold? There's too many people on one node. Beating Xbox to 4K cloud gaming is great, but only if it runs well. If you're first, and it's not polished, the competition can come from behind and look so much better. Look at Fortnite and PUBG. I always said that if a more polished Battle Royale game came out, it would kick PUBG right off the throne, and you know, that's basically what happened. You always have to be careful when you're the first. So for now, it seems like PS5...
I wish it would stop changing my quest. Leave it alone. The Settlers.
Expand it out with respect
God
to gaming.
damn it.
More importantly, in my mind, expand it to a portable device. And that's the show open. Thank you guys so much for being here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Make sure you guys smash that like button. There is plenty of people here. And we are starting the day right. Thank you so much, Saint Gabe, for jumping back in as a member plus, Ragnarok for jumping back in as a member plus, and Han shot first, and so did you. Wasting no time, Ritzik drops a 10 bomb on the member goal. Absolutely getting us started strong here on this Thursday. If you guys are going to make a run for the Fright Night goal, you're going to have to go really, really hard. You guys have had 600 and 700 member days before. I believe in miracles. I believe you can do it. And Machiavelli, hang on, I need to go back to that fan funding page. Machiavelli says, Sony Pictures is terrible movies, services, B-list movies. Well, obviously, it's just the beginning. They're just rolling it out. I don't ever expect services like that to have, like, an amazing lineup or rollout. The point is perception. The perception is I've got movies, anime, TV shows, things that I can watch. That adds some layers. Oh, sorry, Discord. I swear I hit it. I swear I hit the Discord thing before starting. I guess I didn't. Sorry about that. I think that's always the starting rollout on something like that. And again, it's just the perception. It's like, well, it's harder to cancel something when you have more, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want to lose all those things. So, you know, again, the idea being they're adding, they're adding. It's like, okay, we've got cloud streaming for the PS5. Okay, we got TV shows. Okay, we got movies. It's like, okay, that's not
tired.
bad. You increase the price, basically, for anybody who buys annually. Now, if you buy monthly, nothing changed. But buying monthly is so, like, why would anybody